Yeah, we got it and we get it. Offering refreshment. Level up your consciousness. Honestly, the essence. This wave is uncontainable. Facts are undebatable. You lanes are unrelatable. Give a fuck about saving you. We could keep on playing you. You just keep complaining too. This game is unescapable unless you're with the gang or no.
Messing with the penguin. We're messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin.
All right, everyone, we're back. It's still February the 21st, 2022, the eve of Pluto's return to the place where it was on July 4th, 1776. So it's kind of interesting, this theme of this repeating cyclic nature of events, human events, empires falling when it returns, and we'll discuss this tonight. Earlier today I was talking about the movie 222 and about how it's a movie where a character is living through such a cycle. Maybe it was a Saturn Returns, but it was a 30-year cycle. And they actually mentioned Saturn Return in that movie, which was interesting because we were talking about it earlier. And the significance of the movie 222 in this conversation is that it's a Vanilla Sky ripoff that nonetheless carries on all of the main story and plot points that I would suggest connect it to the bigger meta script. Specifically this. The theory is Kubrick is the great meta scripting director, a mind behind 9/11 and other events, not alone, but part of the storyline from Kubrick's work, whether it's The Shining, showing how he was part of Apollo 11. The Shining also forecasted, I mean, this is true with all of his movies. There's JFK tie-ins, death date tie-ins, JFK's embedded into various characters in various movies, JFK Jr. tie-ins. And this is where it gets interesting. Eyes Wide Shut is pretty much about JFK Jr. and this concept of him faking his death. So if you're with me on this, that JFK's assassination was a hoax, and look, you can find a pipeline from Riley's Coffee where Oswald was working, where all those people go over to like NASA and Chrysler, where basically a bunch of people get moved at once, suggestive of intelligence agents planted as coffee workers. Well, Oswald was with them. So it's not surprising that a guy that may have been drafted to work for NASA would be involved in the assassination PSYOP department, which apparently it's all connected. If Kubrick filmed or produced or directed Apollo 11, and we can deduce this from his works, same with 9/11, it's not too hard to see how his role in the JFK assassination would have also have crossed his path with, he would have crossed paths with Lee Harvey Oswald. So anyway, so getting to the present, if it's true that Kubrick and Q are all integrated, because Q is the JFK family, and it's this agenda of this bloodline of Christ coming back to reclaim their kingdom, which is the story in Vanilla Sky. That's why he dies at 33 and he's reborn. I mean, the symbolism goes deep. We've gone over this for years. The main thing is this. I just watched this movie a few days ago, and it's a continuation of the same story about an air traffic controller working in like JFK Airport in this tower. Has everything to do with planes crashing, but it has to do with this event that's been more or less preordained. It's very fascinating the way that they introduce synchronicity into this movie. But my point being, it's on Netflix, it's popular now, it's called 222, and tomorrow, or rather today, depending on where you are, on 222, we happen to be looking at a day which happens to correspond to quite a lot about this JFK story. Specifically, I think it's been, 22 years, 22 months since his death or something like that. I mean, it's getting to be pretty precise, and we have all of our receipts here. So again, I'm not saying that JFK Jr. is going to show up tomorrow riding on the back of a T-Rex, emerging from a flying saucer that has landed on the White House lawn, but it's on the table. It's literally on the table. This is The movie 222, a man's life is derailed when an ominous pattern of events repeats itself in exactly the same manner every day, ending precisely at 222. So it's kind of a predestination movie. Save their future, we must fight his fate. Subtext is everything with these movies. Eyes Wide Shut is based on a movie called Open Your Eyes, and it's a continuation. If you look between the lines, between the points where one movie ends and the other begins, there are stories that are contiguous. This is especially true with the works of Jim Carrey, and you'll spot it when you start seeing the role of Sirius, the dog star, in his films. A star which is central to the rituals and rites of all the secret societies of the world. All right, we're joined here by Eric of Bear, Nama. Hey, speaking of bears, well, I'll bring this up later. We've been talking about the bear thing, and we'll probably get into this tonight. I wanted to go over that book also, The Over the Edge. Anyway, bears are the mascot of Owen Benjamin, the comedian slash flat earthers channel, and I've been kind of creating these penguin bear hybrid emoji things. And I noticed that he was showing off art in his live streams, and I'm like, I wonder if bear penguin paintings could be a thing. Anyway, it's midnight where Portal Complex is. Joined again by John Cordone, Thirst for Truth, Ellen Crooks, Maximilian. And look at the Drudge Report right now, if you're able to. On the cover of the Drudge Report, and considering that right now Pluto is entering into that place where it was, 27 degrees Capricorn, when July 4th, 1776 happened, look at the cover of the Drudge. It looks like the 4th of July. It almost looks like an alien, or rather a UFO, in the sky with a tractor beam, but for the most part, it looks like a 4th of July celebration. And the title here, the headline is, It's On, Defiant Putin Orders Troops into Ukraine, Plans Military Bases. UN Emergency Meeting. Now, emergency is just code, of course, for contrived emergency. It's about the emergence of their order. But what you're looking at here has probably a lot of symbolism we could look into. Anytime I see red and blue together, I think purple, I think Phoenix, Revolution, very consistent symbolism. But again, it looks like July 4th. So that's kind of consistent with the Pluto and the timing of that planetary return. Ryler05 says, every major bad event and lots of minor ones that happened to me have happened on a Tuesday. Okay, let me get into this. There was an incident where someone got trampled. Her name was Roberta Paulson. Her name was Roberta Paulson. You know, from Fight Club, his name was Robert Paulson. Meatloaf's character, when he dies during Operation Mayhem, which is really a reset type of thing. Burning it down, building back better. Well, anyway, there was a woman who was trampled to death by a horse. Probably because she wasn't carrying a Gadsden flag. Don't tread on me. Oh wait, that doesn't work. Remember Roseanne Boylan at 1-6 got trampled. Anyway, it's probably a psyop, and I haven't had a lot of time to look into it, but I got a voicemail from someone who seems to have a little bit more information about that event. So let me go ahead and play that voicemail. Okay, here we go. And again, this is about the horse trampling in Canada, and I believe this is Eddie Bravo by the transcripts.
Hey, Tim Osman, this is Echo Bravo. That horse trampling scene in Canada was fake AF. Tim, I want to give you a free mixed martial art lesson next time you're in LA. Bye.
All right. Free martial arts lessons next time I'm in LA. So according to Echo Bravo, that horse trampling in Canada was fake. All right, thank you for that one. Next voicemail.
Hi, my name's John. My number is 8.
Okay, John, why don't you just call back? I don't want to do any outbound calling at the moment here. Okay, here's another one. Looks like something about the Chinese space junk compactor.
Tim, look up article called Chinese space cleaner spotted grabbing and throwing away old satellite. It came out on February 14th. So I'm looking at it's a Chinese satellite that was spotted in late January grabbing another long dead satellite and days later throwing it into a graveyard orbit 300 kilometers away. Great find. If you can find the title again. It goes into great detail, by the way, a lot of numbers here. It's called Chinese Space Cleaner Spotted Grabbing and Throwing Away Old Satellite, and I found it on Science The Wire website. All right, take care. Bye.
Okay, great find. And we'll look into that one, absolutely. We're looking at Chinese outpacing everyone else with their space program and their space cleanup and their space junk remediation. Hey, look at this from Lean Dion here in Discord. 22 is the deuteragonist of Disney Pixar's 2020 animated film Soul. After Joe arrives at the Great Before, he seeks help from 22 to get him back to his body before it's too late. Okay, so this is a character called 22. I have a mind map on the 22 thing where it was pretty obvious, and it has been this entire year. It's pretty staggering when you look at how that number has been encoded into so many events. And there's a consistent patterning to it. Okay, 22. Interesting find here, especially considering it's Pixar. And Pixar is open about the fact that they encode 113 and 311 into their movies. Wall-E is one of their big ones. And there's several layers of interpretation with Wall-E. You can arrive at cannibalism, communist Marxist revolution, Babylon mystery religion, sex magic, inappropriate for children to be watching. I mean, that movie runs the gambit. By the way, these are your conquerors. We've been talking about the robots taking over, and that was one of the things that Crater Earth USA. You have to listen to their latest podcast. Go to conspiratainment.com or go to Crater Earth USA's YouTube channel. I have it linked there. You're going to have to check it out. But anyway, he's been talking a lot about robots, as we have been, and this idea of it's almost like a soft takeover. But here on the screen, you're looking at your conquerors. Now, these aren't robots, but these are models pretending to be robots wearing footwear. I don't know. They all look to me like, what's the one of the UN with the you put the D batteries in the back of her head? Sophia. By the way, Sophia is appropriated from a Gnostic concept, goddess of wisdom. And the idea with Sophia is that this robot, or rather this synth, which has human rights, doesn't have to wear a burqa or any kind of hair covering in the Middle East. Yeah, that robot that made out with Will Smith, and who knows what they did when the camera wasn't on. She went out to Saudi Arabia. We're talking about the Henson puppet, Sophia, and she became a human. She got human rights. But anyway, you're supposed to believe that this is a higher mind than yours because it's not constrained by human emotions or short-sighted human thinking. But of course, everything she says is just orthodox liberal leftism, hardcore eco-fascism. It's all just like a PC AI bot. Okay, I'm going to go through some comments here. Art of Thinking Out Loud, Common Sense Analytics says 22222. Yep, in Cincinnati, you're there. Hades, Pluto. And of course, the three-headed dog and all the dog stuff is now kind of standing out to me as there may be a reason. Could be Hades. Infinite Muse says the CGI of the space cleaner looked like one of the grab a plushie toy games in the arcades. Yeah, you know what's pretty sad about it is the Chinese, their graphics are just so terrible. And I don't know I have a theory. Because I don't think that it's a matter of visual illiteracy. I think that we're free enough here to where we can still call fake fake. But in some places you just can't for various reasons. Social credit scores. I mean, who knows? So I think it's fear and that, keeps most people in line. So they can't call it fake when it looks fake. And now they're stuck with these really bad cartoons. And they look terrible compared to the actual movies. We're joined by Chief Crow, who says 222 way too many times. And last year on 2222222, Chief Crow and the Flat Earthworms had a live concert. and he's been doing them recently on Saturdays. All right, let's continue. Yes, Mac Flat Earth Fokker has been found. We refer to him now as, was it Mac Sexton? Recycled crisis actors. Frontman242 says, Tim, where are the live shows? Okay, so the best way to find us any time of day or night is just to go to infiniteplane.radio. So I'm just going to go ahead and post a link to Frontman. If you lost track, it's because we've lost 3 or 4 channels in the last month. And so to keep up, you do have to get on the newsletter and get on the text message alerts. And I will be sending text message alerts again starting tomorrow. I would have started today, but again, bank holiday. Okay, let's go ahead and continue down the line. There's so many things to cover today. I was going to also go through all these voicemails first. So we got the first one from Eddie Bravo, who says the thing in Canada is fake, and he'll give me a free mixed martial arts lesson. Okay, next one. Let's see what we have here.
Hey Tim, I just wanted to give a prescription or
Okay, sounds like he's playing Pong or Space Invaders. Hey Tim, I just want to give a prescription. Okay, that's all we got out of that one. Okay, so anyway, phones are open 833-311-1984. Let me go ahead and continue through the notes. Let's go ahead and go through this book. I have some things to say about the book Over the Edge, so we'll go over that as well. To be honest, I'm not impressed, and I'll tell you why. I don't think it's legitimate anthropology. I don't think it's legitimate in the sense that it's not actual fair. It's too biased. She thinks that there's 8 feet of curvature in 2 miles. So if somebody goes 2 miles away, they're over a hump. She thinks that the Earth is the size of Rhode Island. So I don't know if I trust her. And then she spends way too much time talking about the rappers on Flat Earth. So we'll get into that. But if you think about the total number of plays, I just think that she should have, it seems strange to me, but I think she should have talked to people who actually represent this idea and where it's gone. But she went to all the usual shills. Chief Crow says that was voicemail Morse code. Yeah, that might actually be. And there's probably an app that'll decode it really fast for you. I got this app, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it. I think it's called Speechify. Well, anyway, it's an app. You take a picture of a page in a book, and it reads it like an audiobook, which is brilliant if you want to listen to a book you don't have an ebook for. And maybe it's just an article or whatever. I think it's a great time-saving device, but the voice is Gwyneth Paltrow. So I have Gwyneth Paltrow reading to me all day. Pluto, 1930. Listen to this. Pluto first appeared as a nameless bloodhound, tracking the escaped convict Mickey in the chain gang in August of 1930. So I want to get back to the topic of Pluto returns tomorrow. So Pluto was discovered in 1930. It became Pluto in March of 1930. The name was announced on May 1st, which is May 1st is truly the main holiday on the pagan witchcraft calendar, Beltane. I think the Church of Satan opened its doors on that day or the day before. It's a big deal. It's diametrically opposed to, it's on the opposite side of the calendar as Halloween, 6 months apart. So Halloween and May 1st, Beltane, major holidays. Anyway, that's when, and I think this is fitting, Pluto was named. I mean, Pluto, Hades, underworld. So Pluto has names for 2 of its moons, Nix and Hydra. All right, let's see here. Let's move on. Again, Pluto, 1930. That's got to be a coincidence. Now, about that person getting trampled by the horse, I think it's fake. I don't believe in grassroots movements. I mean, if you can find one, please, point in that direction, but all I see is AstroTurf. Again, this is something I mentioned the other day from Ryler05, mentioning that Marty McFly is Tuesday, And like Pluto, he is back. He also says here on the movie Truman Show, Truman was afraid of Pluto, the dog. Einstein, the dog, was the first time traveler, so this dog stuff could be a tell. And there is a lot of dog stuff, and there has been. And a lot of stuff with things falling from the sky. And I haven't been able to watch Space Force, but I know someone who has been watching it. And they've informed me that I believe it's season 2. Yes, here it is. Sky is Falling. And thanks to Random Fake Name for this tip and for watching this stuff. I mean, I don't find Steve Carell that funny. I don't think it's funny when people are in pain. And he always looks like he's hurting. So, Random Fake Name says, the last episode of Season 2 Space Force is about Russia hacking into a U.S. satellite to bring it down in Russia and blame it on U.S. incompetence. Now, that sounds a whole lot like the way they're describing Musk and NASA's handling of Musk and his irresponsibility, dropping CubeSats from the sky. I mean, you can't litter without getting a fine if you're caught. You can't throw your washing machine on the side of the road. And this guy's throwing CubeSats, which are bigger than that, 40 of them. Where are the fines? So anyway, it goes on to say, at the last scene of Season 2, final episode of Space Force, there's a big asteroid coming towards the Earth ball. You know there's that meme. Well, we'll go through memes later. Lean Dion says, moon beef with U.S. and China in Space Force. Well, what they've also done is they've already established that China and Russia are going to have a joint communist moon base. So a joint communist moon base made out of astrocrete, red, commie red, made out of astronaut blood donated for the cause, mixed with the moon dust. U.S. trucker convoy to shut down traffic outside of the Washington, D.C. area. I don't know if that's true. We'll find out. It is true that Madonna uses adrenochrome, bathes in the blood of virgins or whatever, because she's 16 now. Yep, Madonna is 63 going on 16. Who else was there? There was someone else. Eminem also. Eminem is also younger than he used to be. And his eyebrows are what stood out. People noticed by the eyebrows. They said his eyebrows are thicker, they're darker. You know, he went out there with these thick, practically a unibrow. All right, so let's go through Over the Edge. So just a little background on Over the Edge. The author, again, Curvert. Over the Edge is a book about the underbelly of the flat earth, the people in it, how the topic emerged in recent times. So it's a bit of a history book as well. Also, the title is highly unoriginal. And that's kind of annoying when there's 50 books with the same title. Okay, Off the Edge is what it is. I correct myself. Okay, Off the Edge, #1 bestseller in social media guides. A deep dive into the world of flat earth conspiracy theorists brilliantly reveals how people fall into illogical beliefs like moon landings, reject reason like face diapers, destroy relationships, outgroup the free thinkers in your family, and connect with a broad range of conspiracy theories in the social media age. Right? Because conspiracy theory is just anything that's not MSM. It's really become that. You're a threat actor. You're a weapon of mass destruction. The new WMD is the MDM, the Mal-Dis and Misinformation. Off the Edge, journalist Kelly Whale draws a line from today's conspiratorial movement, brimming not just with flat earthers, but anti-vaxxers, QAnon followers. Let me go into some of the direct quotes here. So, she really does focus on the people that I think they don't necessarily represent the whole thing, but they did this on purpose. She says here, though, Eric Dubay made the leap to flat Earth by the end of 2009 when he sent Alex Jones a link to Rowbotham's writings imploring the conspiracy theory. So if you're going to give anybody credit for having started this modern iteration, it has to go to Eric Dubay. And there is this weird competition. A lot of people figured it out or looked into it 2016, 2015. 2017. But then all of a sudden, it's like a new religion. Somebody had to be the one who got the revelation first. So it was a toss up. And everyone was kind of slyly walking it back. One day it's 2015. Another day I hear Mark Sargent say 2013. I hear others kind of gently walking it back until suddenly everybody knew before everybody else. Well, anyway, this reverse race backward through time to rewrite history was won by Eric Dubé. Congratulations, you discovered the flat earth theory or other people's books on the topic, and you didn't give credit to the Flat Earth Society, which always struck me as weird, because they've always been there. Okay, here she says a few things about Robbie Davidson. She said, let's see, kicked off the century by selling dehydrated foodstuffs for Y2K. Okay, here we go. Robbie Davidson told me he lost money in the conference, which was sponsored by an obscure wood-burning stove company and a brand of energy pills that contain 2 cups of coffee's worth of caffeine per capsule. Davidson's previous employment seems to have been get-rich-quick schemes in which he raised awareness for Bitcoin by driving a Kia Soul covered in Bitcoin decals around the country, trying to get people to buy raffle tickets for the car. Now, I wouldn't want to buy the car that somebody's been driving around thousands of miles just sitting in. It's like, no, I don't want your used, sat-in car. He said he broke even on the 2018 conference, and then in the 2019 conference, sold between 600 and 700 tickets to people paying between $200 and $350. Okay, it goes on to say they brought Logan Paul on board. Let me skip that part. But again, this is from the book Off the Edge. It says YouTuber Rob Skiba went on a tangent about how transgender people can't be trusted when they say the earth is round. Quote, there's a thing in the truth-seeking world called transvestigations. Okay, so she goes down that route as well and shows how it eventually ended up dragging in Patricia Steere. Now, here's something you may not have heard. Many of you heard about Patricia Steere breaking up with Mark Sargent and then getting on a boat and going to the UK to go live with Antonio Superats. Well, she's rich or whatever. She inherited some wealth, so she's well off, whereas Superats lives in a little studio apartment. So she goes to the studio apartment and decides there's not enough room for her clothes because she had a clothing store. So you've got rooms and rooms. So listen to this. Steere, who inherited wealth, gave Superats £3,000 to help them move out of his small apartment, but he would not agree to a new place. Every time they toured a nice home, quote, he'd bring out a radiation detector, hold it up and say, nope, radiation can't live here. This happened 50 times, and it turned out nowhere was suitable. So she's talking about her 2-month stay in this cramped apartment, and every time they went to a house, he would bring out a radiation detector and decide it wasn't the right place. Now, the next part of it is just too graphic. It goes into how he treated her and then claimed some other things about her. Just insane. Okay, here's another part. It's talking about Eric Dubé's children's books. And it says, what's unfortunate about his children's book, he says, unlike other, and this is Kelly Well's book, unlike other picture book authors, Dubé's side project involves flat earth rap albums with lyrics like, you're blind, so fuck what you say, I'll expose the flat earth and hail Hitler all day. This line is from a song called Blood Rituals, which appears on Eric Dubé's The Flat Earth Movement album, along with tracks like Bruce Hitler. Okay, Bruce Hitler, that's kind of funny, not funny, but Bruce Lee, and then he's this martial arts instructor, Bruce Hitler, and Goyim Revolution, which includes clips of Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke. He has multiple Flat Earth albums in all this vein, and all of them are morally and musically exhausting. So that's referencing Eric Dubé's rap albums and some Eric Dubé copycats here. It says there are others who try to join Eric Dubé in the genre of Flat Earth Nazi rap. A fan of Dubé, some individual here named Hildenbrand, says here, had a song called Sig Heil and managed to be even less skilled than Eric Dubé. Now here she goes into Nathan Thompson and others. Nathan Thompson, although unambiguously an anti-Semite, is also a nobody outside of the flat earth scene. His biggest film credit is yelling for somebody at a Starbucks. But Owen Benjamin, the headline speaker at the 2019 conference, has real Hollywood titles under his belt. An actor and comedian. But without the veneer of comedy, Benjamin would have a hard time getting away with writing and performing songs like The N-Word Stole My Bike. Yeah, I remember he got into that little bit of a back and forth with people who used to like his work because of that. I could read some more of this stuff, but like I said, I went through the book. I'm still reading it. But the main things I want to point out, Eric Dubé's first. He's given full credit. And it's a bunch of Nazis, flat earth rappers, and flat earth fascists, and people who, and really, there's nothing really positive about anybody in any of these pages that I could see. So just a heads up, there should be some interesting interviews. Although she did say this, there are dissenters within the flat earth world, of course. A group called the Infinite Plane Society suggests that Antarctica extends out into eternity, a universe of ice, to cradle our little blue oasis. She says it's trippy. Infinite space, science. Infinite plane of ice, trippy. Right. Nothing trippy about just floating there. That's not trippy. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments. NASA posted a photo of the actual filtered iPhone cover as a real photo of Earth recently. Yeah, we're on the wrong side of the glass. This world, we are in the TV. We are in TV land. It's pretty bad. Ready or Not says Nyx is a demon. Chatting Tatum, a new movie simply called Dog. Linda Curtis says people are saying Kurt Cobain is Joe Anderson. See, I think Kurt Cobain is River Cuomo. In fact, I think River Cuomo even did a Cobain thing. He looks Cobain-y, I could say that, but that's not, the age would be off. I don't know. How old is he? I would need some more information. But I'm actually in camp River Cuomo as being the real person played and portrayed by the artist formerly known as Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I'm thinking River Cuomo. He just turned into, kind of a nerdy Buddy Holly thing. And that's consistent with the way that the CIA or the intelligence agencies do their deep fakes. They go the opposite. Long hair grunge, short hair clean cut. No glasses, put on glasses. Scraggly, clean shaven. So you kind of flipped the script. Tony Driscoll says Penguin of Mass Destruction. Yeah, absolutely. Thirst for Truth says Robbie's appearance alone keeps the idea of reptilians believable. Oh yeah, same. And I met him before they had the incident where Jake Bird grabbed some woman and she tried to call the cops and Robbie tried to stop her and he made these weird reptoid noises with his throat. And then he ran when the police officer John, the cop John, the off-duty cop, said you have no right to stop her from filing a police report. Anyway, yeah, I would say reptoid. And I also noticed a pipe burn on his lip. And I was thinking, those energy pills that were mentioned in the article? Maybe it wasn't energy pills. Maybe it was dome glass. I can't think of any flat earther tall enough to reach over the ice wall. We had this idea before, that they were going on secret expeditions, chipping bits of glass, and that the elite at the conference were all just cutting lines of pure dome glass. It would explain their antics on stage. Did you see that lean, flat rap performance? There's got to be something in those conferences, something in the water in the hotel. Lean Dion says infinite balls floating and flying in nothingness is not trippy at all. Yeah, it's trippy if they say it's trippy. Aliens are not trippy if they're from this distant place, But that's one of their they designate what is and isn't trippy. The whole spaceball thing is just inherently trippy. Okay, let's move on here. Yeah, we are the dissenters in the flat Earth world, whatever that means. Now check this out, the King Kong versus Godzilla movie. Just more symbolism here. So Godzilla, this is the sum from the track, the motion picture soundtrack. He lives at level 33, sub-level 33, so 33 levels below the ground. Sub-level 33 is where they keep this antagonist in the movie, the Godzilla. What could that mean? Mechagodzilla is stored in Apex Cybernetics Hong Kong facility on sub-level 33. Also, the movie King Kong came out, I believe, in 1933. I haven't watched the movie. I've seen some clips, but I'm always paying attention to what they're putting out there in terms of the major archetypes. And so, anyway, we have that to add to our catalog of conspicuous 33s in plain sight. I have a few ideas on what that might mean, but I want to watch the movie before I break it down. We have a GIF here of your president kicking a dog. And I was looking at images of Pluto, the god Pluto, and the god Pluto is often depicted as holding the dogs on the leash, the hellhounds. And again, Pluto, ruler of the underworld, Hades. And earlier this year, or rather last year, we had the incident with Gabby Petito going into the underworld. Now, this was a storyline that was communicated throughout the telling of the news reports and the depictions of Gabby in front of the angel wings, posing like Virgo. Virgo is personified as Persephone and taken down to Hades. And the date of her body being found was the equinox, or was it really close? It was the 22nd. It was when we entered into Libra, back in September. So this storyline also ties into My Pet Goat, where you have this Gabby Petito looking character holding what looks to be an apple, and she's in the underworld. Well, Persephone is usually depicted as with I believe it's a pomegranate, but they're more or less identical. And so I was suggesting that the story of Brian Landry and the kidnapping and the disappearance, that we were actually looking at a ritual of the spring maiden, Virgo personified, being taken to Hades. His name, Brian Laundrie, brain laundry, brainwashing, pretty obvious, I think. But I think the main thing about it was the idea of being kidnapped or held captive audience to the mind control, as we're all taken to hell, or Hades, the dark side. It's a story that is consistent with the I Pet Goat. And so I'm just looking at the dogs and their association with Hades and the underworld, gods of the dead, and of course Pluto and Pluto's face literally on the planet Pluto. And both Pluto the planet and Pluto the cartoon were invented or discovered or whatever, named in 1930. And we can go through a number of things in our solar system that are straight out of the Disney universe. We live in a Disney universe. And on TV, the news is pretty much like Scooby-Doo Justice. River05 says, River Cuomo's mouth is definitely the same as Cobain's. Yep, that's correct. Yeah, phones are open, 833-311-1984. 311-1984. Numbers on the screen, actually. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Patrick says dome cracks. Oh yeah, okay, so look, the domers, the hardcore domers actually believed, and they taught this, that the dome over the sky, and this was supposed to happen in like 2018, it was supposed to roll back, revealing the face of the Lord, and the shards of dome glass would rain down upon the non-believers. So if you believe in a globe, a giant chunk of dome glass, emerald perhaps, is going to crash through your roof and pin you to the ground. And the last thing you'll think as you're dying is, I shouldn't have laughed at the flat earthers. That's kind of their thing. It's a punishing story. They called it Skyfall. And it was basically the idea that Yeah, Skyfall, there's that again. Skyfall, 2019, they did it again. But again, this was not a mainstream conference. A biblical cosmology and end times prophecy conference, prepare for the coming storm. Now, this was only for the elite of the elite. If you paid $349 to get into the conference and you kissed all the right rings, you'd get invited. But this wasn't advertised to the public. And that's because this was overtly religious. It had a very specific Revelations end timed prophecy, and it involves the sky falling. And that stood out to me. That really did, because I thought, if they do start pulling things down from the sky, they have an alternate explanation here waiting. But it didn't happen. But it says here the alien invasion can't happen because the aliens can't get past the glass dome. But apparently, yeah, the dome's going to get ripped open. But if you believe, you're not going to get crushed by the glass. That's why we talk about the dome glass. That's where that came from, if you're wondering. I mean, we all have wondered, why aren't the people who believe in the dome interested in going out and getting a piece? Ryler05 says Hades created the Kraken. Okay, that's exactly what we needed to know. Who created the Kraken? This makes a lot of sense. This makes a whole lot of sense. The Kraken appears in the 2010 remake. I like the old version better, stop motion animation. The narrator explains Hades created the Kraken to slay the Titans. It was then assumed Zeus forced Hades to lock up the Kraken so it wouldn't harm anyone. That's actually a big puzzle piece. And if you look at the screen, I have a meme. It says, sometimes what a person needs is just one piece of truth for it all to unfold. And this is one of those moments here because we're looking at this consistency. With the crack smoking, what is it, pillow salesmen, the Krakens, the various schisms we're constantly talking about, and the use of the phrase crack. And now the communists went from chicken in every pot to crack pipe in every pocket, where the government's giving out crack pipes so that you don't give COVID to your fellow crack smoker. You all have your own pipes. So it's like, that's a puzzle piece there. This Kraken thing we've been saying is some kind of schism, and the Kraken itself could be a metaphor. And this first really started being force memed into the mass mind with the NHL's 32nd team, the Seattle Kraken, and their 1 minute and 13-second trailer that seemed to suggest EMP, floods, specifically northwest, Seattle being taken out. So given all of that, and then the crack, which of course is very political because it's only one side of the political spectrum that wants to give out clean crack pipes. So given all of that, for Hades to have created the Kraken makes all the more sense. I would suggest that tomorrow would be Release the Kraken Day. Given that Pluto returns 1776, and what's more, with 76 you have the idea of the schism, the split, the 13 colonies. Lean Dion says, Rogan's most recent guest got more controversial talking PSYOPs, 77th Brigade, Great Reset, Limited Hangout. Yeah, if they don't talk about crisis actors, they are crisis actors. That's a good rule of thumb when it comes to the media, because you can be one without knowing it. You have friends that are probably crisis actors. I mean, I was a paid, not witting, I was an unwitting but paid crisis actor, barely. They compensated us with the stimmies. Barely gave me enough money to do what I needed to do, but I made a trip to the place where the first UFO crashed, 1947, Roswell, Corona Field. David A. Pryor says the controllers push Skyfall 2. Yeah, exactly. That's why it stood out to me that the Flat Earth Conference organizers had this secret cult. And what's more, and this is why they don't publicize it, they actually have pieces of dome glass. Like, it's not only just a joke. I don't think they're snorting it, but they're getting glass out from somewhere, some desert somewhere, and they're saying it came from the dome. So they actually have evidence, but they don't show it to everybody. They got to make sure that you're not going to blab about it. They got to make sure you're a believer. 737 says Operation Thor, light pole tungsten metal rods falling from satellites. Yeah, that would be rods of God. And I thought that might be the way. All right, let us continue. Now, this is an interesting channel. I mentioned it a couple days ago, but I didn't get back to it. So I want to make sure I put a link in the chat so you can follow this channel. It's Donnie Darkened on Twitter. And he does these deep dives into various world stage characters. And one of his great breakdowns is the one that shows Donald Trump as the chosen Antichrist foreshadowed in the media, and even, well, we'll get into that one, but we've gone deep into Trump's background. But this is about Pluto. On 222222, it'll be a once in a 248-year event. Pluto is going to conjunct or return to the United States. Astrologically, Pluto brings destruction and rebirth. Rome fell when Pluto returned. So he has here, first Pluto returned 219. 219 AD, the Roman Empire's natal Pluto is at 27 Cancer. The empire experienced a Pluto return during the years 2018 to 2020. This is a period of terrible ending after great expansion. Second Pluto return, 464 AD, during the reign of some puppet emperor or another. Historians end the empire in 476 AD. It's also very interesting, and this is from Donnie Darkened, that Kanye West's new album, Donda 2, releases exactly on this day and depicts a burning house, which may have a double meaning for his personal life, but a subliminal hint as to what's to come in this country. Now, he said it represented his house, and it had personal meaning, but the word house has an astrological context. The house of astrology, but there's also something else. At his event, it looked more like a chapel or a church. And then he also had himself burned. But yeah, this alone stands out. And he's selling it for too much money, or $200 on a Tuesday. I mean, this is a strange week. Kanye even acknowledged the significance of the date in relation to Pluto's return on an Instagram story post. So he posted this. According to the stars, the United States is getting a spiritual makeover with its first ever Pluto return on February 22nd. Astrologically, a Pluto return is when the heavenly body returns to the same position in a birth chart where it was when the chart began. Remember, 22 is the master builder number in occult practices. It is interesting that this will be the 22nd day, second month, 22nd year, and second millennia since Christ's birth. So his breakdowns here, 11 is the master dreamer, 22 is the master builder, 33 is the master teacher. I'm not big into numerology or ascribed meanings. To me, the meaning is used or derived from its context when we're deciphering and decoding. So you do have meanings people associate with these things, but to me it's just something to decipher. And there's a consistency with all their symbolism and the usage that does give away their bigger script here. And we've been able to predict with some startling specificity events that would be occurring within certain time frames. Like those 40 CubeSats dropping, it's very consistent with our read of the meta script as it's been presented. We're not connecting the dots, we're just reading their script. Okay, Donnie Darkened on Twitter says, I do not have any particular inclination to believe that something will happen on this exact day, but I do believe this signifies a turning point in history. We are in a season of destruction and rebirth, order out of chaos. Big things are coming. Most people believe we're reaching an awakened age of enlightenment, peace, and prosperity, but do not be deceived. 2 times 2 times 2 times 222 is 1776. Okay, that's interesting, which is true. 888 in Gematria is ascribed to Jesus or to Christ. So you multiply 888 by 2, you get 1776, which would also mean or suggest that 1776 is a second coming or a rebirth or a twin, a repeated character. Recycles. 888 times 2, 1776. Yes, 222. I mean, I have fatigue with this number and these patterns and their endless witchcraft. I mean, this is all just spellcraft, is what it is, in my opinion. It's just really too weird to me that JFK's death date coincides so perfect with the Pluto return. Okay, so what he's suggesting, and this again is Donnie Darkened, and I put a link to the thing below, is that this is going to be some type of beginning of the end. Another piece of information he says was given to him that Kanye West's Donda 2 album is being produced by Future, who is referred to as, quote, Pluto, and has an album called Pluto. So here you have Future, Pluto, and he's produced this album that's being released on Pluto's return. Lickety Split says Tupac's last album has a 22, and Dre and Snoop are on it. Oh, like the superb owl, right? And there's a lot of 22s in these assassinations. JFK shot on the 22nd. RFK shot by a 22. Reagan attempted assassination, shot with a 22. I've been finding a lot of interesting correspondences, and the number 22 has been something we've been highlighting here for months. And I have some pretty specific predictions that I don't really talk about live because, well, I don't want to give away too many spoilers. We have some really good spoiler alerts, though, so if you want to know what's going to happen in the future, if you want to have a pretty good idea, and we have a pretty good track record. Not that we're prophets. Like I said, we're just reading the stitches on the fastball. The fastball, as what's his name? Morrison used to say, or Rush Limbaugh. Reading the stitches on the fastball. It's pretty obvious and blatant, and I think it's because it's a language that the insiders are meant to be able to see and read. They're not doing it to mock you. I don't think they're putting the symbols out there for your benefit. I think that this occult language, this entire area of discourse that goes above our heads, it's meant to, because we're not elevated. We haven't been shown the light. We are the hoodwinked, which is the term that the Masons use for those who haven't been initiated, meaning you got a hood over your head. You're walking in the dark. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Again, just to reiterate here, Donda 2 is produced by Future, referred to as Pluto, and it comes out on that day. All right, let's continue. 27 degrees Capricorn, just a heads up. Okay, the $100 bill. Now, this is significant. This is actually a big deal. I was talking about the movie 222. Now, check this out. This is the... What is this? Is this the $100 bill? It says 222. Interesting. Well, anyway, the $100 bill folded up gives you the Space Needle with an EMP blast above it. The $100 bill, like the $20 bill, seems to be foreshadowing the next major event. But yeah, it definitely seems to be the Space Needle. And the number 100 and this Century Project is associated with the Space Needle in a number of ways. Very consistent with this as well. So 222 on the $100 bill. Now the movie 222, the big bad thing happens at that exact moment. So it's all very interesting. All right, let's see what else we have here. I'm going through this thread. So basically, the long and short of it, Donnie Darken says, from the ashes of the old order, a new will arise. So yes, we have an idea here. It's probably not going to be the end, but the beginning of the end. So the show starts. Stock up on popcorn and everything else you know that the panic mobs are going to raid from the stores. All right, let's continue here. Lickety Split says 22 paths on the Tree of Life. Yeah, the 22 paths correspond to the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, which correlate to the 22 major arcana. And you may think tarot cards have nothing to do with your life, but the playing cards and the tarot cards are synonymous, and these things they're occult. They're encoded. It's not just like, some people have this superstitious dread of tarot cards or Ouija boards. It's like, well, playing cards are the same thing. Four seasons, four suits, the cups in the occult, the dagger, the pentacle, they're just rebranded more or less. So you get your hearts and your spades, but these are the same exact symbols. Patrick 78 says, I wonder what the $2 bill reveals when folded. Interesting. I'd like to know if you find out. Now, the $20 bill and its 9/11 references is very consistent with the George Floyd Derek Chauvin event with all those 9/11 references. Given that the back of the whole thing the back of the 20 has the 9/11 Twin Towers burning. And it never made sense. How do all these bills have these little hints, these subtle hints thrown in there? How does it make sense? How could this have been done? Well, it makes sense when you look at things from this long-term perspective. We're looking at plans put into place decades and decades in advance. So again, John F. Kennedy crashed and died 22 years, 222 days ago. And John F. Kennedy may seem like just some other politician or puppet, but he's actually a very prominent figure in the world today because he is the Jesus of the QAnoners. They believe that the Kennedys are the blood of Christ, that JFK was Jesus, and that the elite killed Jesus. But they didn't crucify him, they shot him in the head. But he survived, and now he's been living undercover this whole time, and his son faked his death, and they've been planning this takeover or this comeback ever since. So if that's true, then JFK may indeed arrive, maybe not on the back of a T-Rex out of a flying saucer, but yeah, he may actually arrive on the world stage tomorrow. Salty said, I had a Ouija board when I was 8. Yeah, supposedly they're gateways to possession, but it could all be, a lot of spiritism. A lot of these people have been exposed as charlatans, but there may be something to it. I happen to think that it doesn't matter what you use when it comes to divination, tarot cards. I think anything random can work. If you believe in that kind of stuff. I mean, these are all, a lot of it I think is kind of subjective, but I don't discount it all. Even though you have people on TV like John Edwards who are obviously hoaxing their audiences. I have a list of things with the number 22 that might be worth looking through, but it's going to be tomorrow, so we're all just going to watch, and we all have front row seats. Now, it was Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law where he said, is God to live in a dog? We've been finding a lot of references here, with God and dog being synonymous with this occult set of these occult symbols. And of course, like I said, the dog-headed Egyptian god Anubis is the guide to the underworld. All right, phones are open, 833-311-1984. Lickety Split says, don't even need to fold the money, just look at the pyramids and the phoenix eagle. Yeah, that's a good point. On the back of the bill is an eagle, but it's actually a phoenix. It was a phoenix, but they stylized it, but it's the same thing. You might as well consider it to be an eagle. Some of these things are interchangeable. So I haven't looked into this hoax, but I'm pretty sure it's a hoax. Walking Dead actor Moses Mosley was shot, and it's questionable. Was it a suicide? Was it not? I looked at the name Moses and Mosley, and I think we might be looking at something of a hoax here. It might be worth looking at. Let's see, we have Dana Delaney was prompted by Bob Saget's death to get checked after suffering a fall. So we have a lot of these comedians falling and hitting their heads. And that one, Heather McDonald, think the name Donald, has the same birthday as Donald Trump. and she gets this skull fracture by falling. I know her jokes were bad. She probably didn't deserve the fracture. But I personally don't actually think it was real. I mean, these comedians are taught, they go to school, they learn how to fall safely and comedically. Art of Thinking Out Loud Live, Common Sense Analytics says George Floyd's pornos are trending again after they tried to scrub them. The world stage martyr was an amateur porn star. Right, I kind of forget about that. Not that it means anything. He was an entrepreneur. Maybe he was just doing side gigs. I mean, no judgment. But yeah, it does seem a little strange how they can take anything and turn him into the purist, turn him into this, basically Christified him. And they can take somebody who's good and pure and make them into the devil. It's super subjective, but that's the power of the media. Ottawa protests end. I don't know if they're going to bring the trucks down to D.C. I have no faith in mass movements or organized labor revolts like this. I don't think it's the way. Like, I wasn't into anti-lockdown protests begging for their freedom back at the capitals instead of just doing freedom. When you stop doing freedom and you start lining up behind these politicians and demanding it, that's when you're actually submitting. You might as well be on your knees instead of walking around chanting for all the good that it actually accomplishes. And these events are highly infiltrated by, as we've seen, even 1/6. It's not a conspiracy theory that there were agitators and feds. Although that doesn't go far enough. This is how you know people like Tucker Carlson, who's friends with Hunter Biden, and I hope they don't share pipes. I hope Hunter's got some of these free pipes. What do they call them? Biden pipes? Like you had Obama phones? Anyway, Tucker Carlson, who is literally friends with Hunter Biden, he came out with this 1/6 narrative that it was a false flag. Oh, the feds went in there and they infiltrated it and they instigated. The problem with that is when you say it's a false flag, you're saying it still happened. You're saying it was more or less legitimate, that these are real people, that it wasn't totally simulated. And it makes a difference. It matters. It matters because Ashley Babbitt didn't die. And now they've turned Ashley Babbitt into a martyr. And Trump even sent a happy birthday video to Ashley Babbitt for her first posthumous birthday party. So she's dead, but her mom and others are hanging out. And he sends a video and he says it's terrible that officer shot her. And his initials, the guy that shot Ashley Babbitt in that staged fake drama, his initials are MLB. Reverse BLM. No coincidences here. It's all part of the setup, if you ask me. A tit for tat type of setup. Somebody's going to want revenge for Ashley Babbitt, and Trump has more or less called for it. Zareth says T-Rex can't eat tacos with those tiny arms. A reference to the T-Rex that JFK Jr. will ride upon when he arrives for Taco Tuesday. All right, let's continue here. Again, in the chat, I put a link to Donnie Darkin's Twitter feed if you want to go through it yourself. A QAnon founder may have been identified thanks to machine learning. A ton of articles have come out. Every time I do a pretty good job of doxing Q, all these stories come out and they point at the wrong person, like they're trying to drown it out. So this time, I have emailed dozens of people. Anyone who writes any article on the topic that someone has used machine learning to identify Q, I'm contacting everyone and I'm giving them the facts. And there have been so many stories as of late that it wouldn't surprise me if Goldfinch is revealed in the next couple of weeks. That would be nice. That would be big. In fact, listen, there is, I can't say a bounty, but however, if this person is doxxed, this person has admittedly committed many fourth-degree felonies, identity theft against me, actually claimed trademarks on my voice, and used that to shut down dozens and dozens of YouTube channels. So This person is guilty of major crimes, federal crimes, wire fraud. We could have this person put into a cage, which will make it very easy for me to file my damage claim, which is collectible. So it'll be good for everybody. It's a win-win-win situation. So if you have any spare time and you want to help in this endeavor, all you need to do is share the domain marcusgoldfinch.icu and share it with any journalist, aspiring reporter who wants to have a story that will be Watergate level if it gets out. Watergate level. And the damage, it's statutory damages. I don't have to go to trial. I've had some estimates, and I don't want to really, because I mean, it's going to go higher, but yeah, I've read the estimates, and I can settle the civil, but I can't stop the FBI from what they're going to do with the intellectual property crimes and the identity theft. I can't stop them from going into a cage. There's no settling here. And the money from the cyber squatting is statutory. It's already been established, and that's just going to be tallied up and paid over. But it's going to be difficult as long as he's flying around the country at the side of Donald J. Trump. Now again, this is 100% verifiable. He is at the side of Donald J. Trump. They actually were in the same room recently on video. He was holding the camera at Trump's birthday party. That was Trump's what 70 was what birthday was it that Trump had? How old is Trump? Let me see which one it was, because he's got a few weird birthday parties I want to bring up. So Trump's birthday in 1977 he was 42 years old in 1977, and they had a flying saucer at the party that just sort of descended on everybody, and I thought that was kind of strange. Patrick78 says, you're going to be rich. In a sense. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. To me, it's a standard of living thing. Like, I like the idea of not having to deal with my internet going down. I like the idea of being able to maintain a constant and consistent work schedule. The only reason I'm not at work some days, I'm not here, is I'm doing other things to keep this thing going because of his actions, which, yeah, it does work. You can drive people out of business, and that's what he attempted to do, and he admitted to it. And all of his admissions of malice are what make my case easier, because his only defense would have been, oh, I was accidentally cyber squatting, but you can't have that defense when you've admitted to malice and you've repeatedly repurchased the same domains. But no, it'll be interesting, and my point is this. If I was a liberal or I was a lefty and I hated Trump, if I was a Trump deranged person, I would be all over this, because nothing could do more damage to a potential 2024 Trump run than the public finding out that the source of Q, the source of the JFK nonsense, is George News, and it's a personal friend of Trump's. And how close are they? Well, Trump handed him an actual key to the White House. And I looked into the keys, and these keys, I think they're $3,000 if you want to buy one. He has lapel pins from Mike Pence, personal letters. I mean, it's all there. He's got 300,000 followers on Telegram, and they all know who he is. They believe he's a high-ranking military civilian, some kind of special agents operative who is the front or rep of JFK Jr. He's the source of it. So if anybody wants to bring down Trump a notch and completely implicate him in the entire QAnon story, it is this that will do it. This Marcus Goldfinch is the key. And the fact that I got him in the trademark courts, I went to federal court, and the fact that I got him in the system, and I have him as co-defendants on multiple cases, I used DMCA subpoenas to thoroughly dox him. He didn't think I was going to pull this off. But because I got that, he can't escape. It's a win. It's 100% a win. There's no way I can lose because there's no trial, like I said. But if you want to help speed things up, by all means. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. marcusgoldfinch.icu. Now you have to understand this was a 3-year plus stalking campaign that only ended when we doxed him. And the story's always developing. I mean, there's always more to add. But I go into how originally he was this channel MGTV, and he was semi-famous for having doxed David Hogg. Well, then he was drafted to go work for George News, and he worked with Donald Trump. He went over to work for the Trumps. But at this time, and this is where it gets interesting, all of the news articles from Vice to New York Times, anybody who covered this story about David Hogg being a crisis actor, they scrubbed the guy's name. They scrubbed his channel name, MGTV, from the articles, and I can prove it. Some of them, they just left the letter M. So somebody went into all these different, he probably did, or somebody has clout, to call Vice, to call Forbes, and say, take the name MGTV off that article. Because they didn't want it to be searched, I guess. So Q is 100% a real person, and this person is very close to Donald Trump. Like, as in, they breathe the same air. They eat together. This is a big deal. The person has a huge audience, like I said, and like here's one of his Q drops. See, the media is so dumb, maybe it's deliberate, but they think the Q drops stopped in 2020. No, they continued through George News. And I follow a lot of these people who are high up in this circle of JFK fans block me because they know I'm spying on them, and I'm taking all of their Q drops. So here's what George said. Why would we transmit, and he's talking about me here, I think, why would we transmit battle plans to the enemy? Eyes are on all of us since the drops were paused. So again, a battle plan, enemy, this guy could be considered to be an insurrectionist, and I reported him to the FBI as an insurrectionist. He originally appeared on the scene as QAnon, Anonymous Q, FBI Anon, and then of course he's the front behind the resurrected magazine of JFK. Here is a picture of George News, his laptop, there's his phone, and this is the key. Now what's really creepy about this, there is something creepy about it, because I'm talking about someone who actually has been stalking me. Yeah, the government paid this guy to stalk me and my family and other things. I mean, this will all come out. This will all definitely come out in the wash here. But yes, he was given a key. Now, his news organization has unprecedented access to military operations and training facilities. I followed him all through 2020, recorded footage from inside military hospital ships, quarantine outposts, then his connection with the other Trumps. He shared a screenshot where you could see he was communicating with Ivanka. Now, I know these are all facts here. He's a regular guest at Mar-a-Lago and at Trump Tower, New York, and I planned to have him served at Mar-a-Lago until I talked to someone from the Federal Trade Commission who said, "Oh, you've got a identity theft case here." So if this is an identity theft case, I don't need to serve him at Mar-a-Lago. I need to get him doxxed publicly and exposed so there's pressure somewhere. And I do have, who knows if he's listening, but it doesn't matter at this point. I'm in communication with some people who may be able to spark this, but I do want to keep the heat on until it goes down, because it'd be much easier to collect the debt when he's locked up. Oh, by the way, someone in the chat mentions the Red Power Rangers getting wrecked. One of his gigs, because he's an actor, he was a double for the Red Power Ranger. And what's funny is there were 3 Red Power Rangers that all had these crazy deaths. One of them, I believe he beheaded an old couple, stole their money, and then committed suicide in a boat. The other one beheaded his roommate with a samurai. And the other guy beat his wife nearly to death and committed suicide. And so he's the last Red Ranger. It's like the Red Ranger curse. But he's independently wealthy. We had gone so deep into this. Yes, he was part of a business deal in 2005. He was part owner of EAS Myoplex when it sold to Abbott Labs. And he walked out with a share of $300 million. That's quite a bit of money. And look, he's running George News with the blessing of the Kennedys, with RFK. Like, this is beyond trademark infringement. This is running the business. I mean, this is basically theft, or he's their agent. So yes, he was credited with such films as Fast and Furious, Power Rangers, Xena the Warrior Princess. I did find that he was the manager for the White House Communications Office Dropbox, and one of the email addresses was anonymouscharity@gmail.com. You can search anonymous.charity. You can find his connections to Robert Watkins. I think that he bought domains from what is it? Let me double check that. Is it Roger or Robert Watkins? These domains, specifically the 4chan, 8chan, and all these different domains, are were expired, and then Ron Watkins apparently sold 8kun.org to Marcus Goldfinch, and I proved it and I publicized it, and then he turned the domain off or whatever. He had it. It was like, I guess it was too revealing. A few other things. Goldfinch is known among the MMA fighting circuit. He knows a lot of people in the MMA, and I have a lot to do. I have a lot to back this up. He's friends with Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan. And here's where it gets kind of interesting. Flat Earther Eric Dubay, we were just talking about. Eric Dubay knows Q. Think about that. Eric Dubay knows Marcus Goldfinch. They produced this together in 2017. It's called The Awakening. It reminds me of The Great Awakening. The Awakening, producers MGTV and Eric Dubay, studio MGTV World, Prime Video. So this story was put onto Prime Video. It was a collaboration with MGTV World and Eric Dubay. And yes, Eric Dubay knows Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo knows MGTV slash. And I know for a fact that these are connections. Like we know that, like, for example, this guy Q parties in Vegas with Rogan and Eddie Bravo, and I have emails where he bragged about how much money they spend, because we were in talks at one point. Before I doxed him, he didn't believe me. He thought I was bluffing. He's like, "You don't know who I am." I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are." And he didn't know about this thing called the DMCA subpoena, and I managed to figure out who he was. So he thought I was bluffing, and we were talking about a settlement, and the deal was I would remove all my defamatory content about MGTV, and he would remove stuff and he would leave me alone. And the settlement, he asked me for the amount, and I threw an amount out there. I said 70K, and I was basing it on 70 channels shut down. And he laughed and he said, "Me and Eddie and Joe spend that much in a weekend in Vegas." And I'm going to share all these emails. Many of them are probably very embarrassing to him, or they will be. But he bragged about it and then ignored my, not demand, but this arrangement that we were going to have. And so I doxed him. And then he sort of, he's been kind of mad at me ever since. Okay, what's more? He works as a Google administrator, and he manages a channel called YouTube TV Live. So yeah, he works as a Google admin. He used to go into our chats and delete comments and say, "Google moderator has removed your comment." And he actually shared with me an email that showed when he got hired by YouTube. So I knew that he was working for them. So this guy was toying with us quite a bit before we doxed him. And he hasn't been able to do any damage control. I mean, it's too late. He sent more than 400 fraudulent DMCA takedown notices to shut me down. So what that means is this. The Digital Millennial Copyright Act thing, it's all about who owns the video. Is it the person who uploaded it, or is it the person who's claiming it? Well, YouTube doesn't get in the middle of the dispute. So this Copyright Act is about settling disputes over who owns content. Now, it's a legal document. So if you say, "I own this, and I put this on the DMCA," I've then committed perjury. And perjury is not such a big deal necessarily, but I can prove, and I have a spreadsheet, more than 400 fraudulent DMCA takedown notices. So 400 instances of perjury. And this is just minor compared to the other stuff. Now, the cyber squatting, and you can find articles about that. I have a lot more to add to this, but this has been covered by trademarks and brands online. An author of a book about the Earth being flat has filed a trademark infringement and cyber squatting suit against an unnamed defendant using his name to spread defamatory content. Anyway, this article came out when it was still a John Doe defendant. And it says it shows that the defendant willingly infringed on trademarks, unfair competition, brand dilution, etc. When I refile it, he won't be a John Doe. Okay, I have a link here. You can see the White House Communication Office Dropbox, and you can see this is the anonymous charity. This is the same guy, Q, in the White House with the WHCA. There's more here. Yeah, he manages the White House, their entire folder that they were using to share documents with the press. Now here's a leaked email. I have a few of them where he mentions Bravo and Rogan. Let's go on a little further. I don't want to go through all of this, but his brother, now this is something else. Another reason why he can never actually get away with this is that even though he may be able to run and hide, eventually he's going to be caught because we know who his family is. And interestingly enough, his brother works for Pat Robertson, the Christian Broadcast Network. Oh, he recently stepped down as the host of 700 Club. But anyway, yes, Q's friend, Q's brother, works for this old Skull and Bonesman. Or who knows? I mean, is he Skull and Bones? I think Tex Mars had a good article about this guy. And yeah, Pat Robertson does all kinds of Masonic hand signs. And sometimes it looks like he's actually summoning Satan when he does the devil hand thing. But again, Pat Robertson works with Q's brother. That's a fact. I've actually contacted him once. Cesara says there is a reporter suing Twitter for violating California laws, saying they aren't allowed to block opinions in the public domain. Yeah, YouTube is in California. And suing YouTube used to be tricky. But thanks to COVID and e-filing, it's actually kind of easy. I have a lawsuit against YouTube that's going to be getting some attention here soon. I mean, I should be getting a response. It's been a little bit more than a month. Now, think about this too. So his brother working for CBN and Pat Robertson, and he being a QAnoner, accusing celebrities and Democrats of being satanic. That's kind of interesting. David A. Pryor says this guy is like the spider that ties the web together. Yeah, definitely. So here are just some basic things. He's with the White House Correspondents Association, George Magazine, JFK Jr. He still works and travels exclusively with T45, or that's what he calls him, Donald Trump, every day, all day since 2016. He has official White House press credentials. I think he's I have a few suspicions, but we'll have to wait and see. So to reiterate, he's been at the side of Trump since 2017. And the reason why this matters, of course, is that Trump has been able to hide behind a little bit of plausible deniability. Like he doesn't know who Q is, or he was just pandering to his base. No, he's sleeping with Q. Q shines his shoes. And if you had any doubt about any of this, this is the final puzzle piece. This here is linchpin. This is a channel of his that was taken down after I sued him, but it still shows up on socialblade.com. And this is the MGTV channel when he went by Team EAS, because he was managing EAS Myoplex before they sold for $300 million. So anyway, he has a lot of money. He bragged to me. He thinks of himself as some kind of a Batman, some kind of a black hat hacker doing bad things for good purposes or something. So anyway, on this Social Blade account, if you hover over the Facebook, Marcus Goldfinch Online, and I'm probably blocked there. Hover over the Twitter, Marcus Goldfinch, I'm probably blocked. Hover over the Instagram, Marcus Goldfinch. The connection between Goldfinch, MGTV, Anonymous Q, George News, it is solid. It couldn't be any clearer. Then, of course, we have all these other accounts. So, yes, it's 100% verified. So now I brought this up because we have these recent articles. Swiss startup claims to have identified authors of QAnon. New York Times, who's behind Q? Linguistic detectives find fingerprints. Daily Mail, forensic linguistics say they know the origin. So I'm just suggesting here, that they are trying to do either A, damage control, or this is a legitimate attempt to find out who Q is. Let me go through some comments. Adam Geringer says, predictions for today, all twos. Well, Pluto returns another 1776, but do things always happen on the perfect date, at the perfect time when it's predictable? Experience says no. Like, these patterns usually reveal themselves after the fact. But I'm sort of on board with the idea that tomorrow would constitute really the official start of the Great Awakening or the Great Reset, whatever this thing is. Because it's all astrological, especially when you look at the conjunctions. And again, we're looking at Pluto being conjunct with America at the exact time it was on a very specific and important date. So I mentioned Gabby Petito and our trip to Hades. So this is an article I wrote in September. If you go to timosmond.blog, and I'll put a link here in the chat, you'll be able to see what I'm addressing here. Would-be van lifer Gabby Petito was murdered, and her disappearance was a trending topic by the time her body was discovered. Autopsy was conducted by Dr. Baden, who examined George Floyd's corpse. This happened just in time for the end of Virgo. So here's what I wrote. Here are pictures of Gabby. As you can see, she's been represented as Virgo, even with the one leg cocked. She looks exactly like the constellation. So summer is over. Another elite ritual in plain sight. So what you have is the story of Persephone is Virgo personified. It's the abducted spring maiden taken to the underworld at the autumn equinox. So it's a narrative about the changing of the seasons. On 9/22, the path of the sun's annual journey places it directly over the equator, giving us the equinox. So beginning Libra, symbolized by the scales, when the year slips into the dark half. So this is a story about her going into, you could say, a Virgo or a virgin sacrifice. Infinite Plane Radio.
What is up, my guy? What is up? This is Adam.
Hey, what's up, Adam? Oh yeah, you were asking about predictions for tomorrow, and well, tomorrow is Hades returns. So what does that suggest for you? I mean, Hades is the guy who created the Kracken.
Okay, yeah, so he created the Kraken. I mean, like, bro, as far as, like, looking back into it and everything, oh, you got me, by the way. But, yeah, as far as, like, looking back into it, like, Hades is just Hades to me. Like, I was kind of, like, looking more for, like, can we, like, I don't know, just maybe as a society, as an infinite plane society or something like that, I don't know, come up with, like, predictions that, like, we're actually nailing on top of the head. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got some main shit right now that's like hitting fucking good. You know what I'm saying? Like, The Weeknd is Justin Bieber. Like, I totally, like, actually think The Weeknd is Justin Bieber. Like, by the way, like, this conversation is amazing. But other than that, like, man, like, tomorrow is just all twos. So it's like,
right, it's all
goddamn,
twos, and it's the second decade of the second millennium. It's perfectly aligned. So to me, it seems to me that one of the common facets of the ritual magic is the coordination and the synchronizing with the celestial arrangements. So it's way too precise. There's no way it's a nothing burger. My guess, though, or not guess, but my read of this whole thing has been that we are being set up for some major JFK level assassination to trigger political turmoil. And tomorrow could be the day, or shortly thereafter. But ever since that Amir lock on 2-2, there's been nothing but twos and references to mirrors. So, and his name being a mirror. But again, yeah, I'm thinking more on the lines of some type of assassination.
I mean, bro, if they pull it off, then I would say, you know what? Look at the work that's come so far, that's put into this for us to be able to predict this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, with our guesses, can we actually, like, predict the future? Like,
Okay,
type
two
deal.
two
You know what
two,
I'm saying?
the $100 bill. Maybe tomorrow's the day they EMP the Space Needle. But look, the week of the Challenger explosion, I suggested that they were going to take out Kaepernick, and you know what happened? One of his co-stars from the same film he was in, Colin in Black and White, died, and her name CK, initials that is, like his, CK. Her name was Chesley Christ. And she landed on 42nd Street after jumping from the Orion building. I mean, this whole thing was super encoded. And I'm like, well, what is going on here? We are pretty accurate year after year with some of these repeated annual ceremonies and things that they tend to do. Super Bowls are usually easy to, predict stuff on. But yeah, for tomorrow, my best guess, I'm thinking EMP or Major League Assassination.
Um, I would I would have to agree with that because it can come out in any number of sort of ways. I mean, because we're gonna analyze it and decode it either way, whatever happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess the people here, or you know what I'm saying? Like, we're everybody's got their eyes on it. Like, if this whatever it is comes out, because we're gonna be looking at it from all the different aspects that we ourselves personally look at it, but then also like, what can we share with people and put it out there. And I think that comes in with the decoding and everything. And we're actually really never wrong, because there's always some shit that like has to deal with like Egypt, or like some like fucking religious order, it has something to do with masonry, has something to do
Well, one thing we do
because of the
is we are always questioning first, whereas most people are going to react emotionally to whatever it is. The scarier it is, the worse it is, the harder they're going to believe it. And then here we are being extremely skeptical, like film critics, like we're judging the hell out of the news every day. And I think that's the rational way to proceed here. We're dealing with a pathologically lying mass media apparatus.
yes, absolutely, you're right, Tim. I got to say another thing too. Shout out to you for posting the stuff about Mad Mike recently on Facebook. Love that shit. Like, yeah, man, that literally happened like what, like a year or like a year and a half or something ago.
Oh yeah, 2 years ago on 222, Mike did crash. That was his
Dude,
launch, and that's why the book Off the Edge is being released tomorrow.
God,
She released the book tomorrow, or she's releasing it tomorrow to coincide with Mad Mike's last rocket jump.
what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, I don't know what to make.
goddamn,
Look,
like,
there's a point where I see patterns. We talk about these things, then I have my own synchronicities. And then I see these other things that are just unexplainable. And it leaves me just like, I mean, what do you say? You're like, well, that's a strange. And I was having premonitions before, very specific ones. And so I don't know. I mean, that movie 222 I was watching is all about some guy having premonitions. And he starts predicting things to with such specificity that his girlfriend accuses him of being crazy, and then he turns out to be right, and she realizes it too late, which is the usual story. Like, people will believe us when everything's already falling apart.
I mean, yeah, bro, I hear you in all aspects of that. I get, I guess I'm just saying, like, shout out to Mad Mike, but also you can use me as a guinea pig for anything new that's coming out, because I'm actually like behind on like everything. Like, I feel like every time like I come in like on a 24-hour stream, I know we've been censored out the crap. I'm sorry, I've been drinking too. We've been censored out the ass about the crap.
Yeah, I know what you
But
mean.
yeah,
But yeah, you can catch
we
up. We'll catch up. I'm glad you're calling in. And yeah, the Mike, Mad Mike, was misrepresented in this book because she's like, oh, Flat Earth killed him. It's like, no, he was a daredevil for 30 plus years, lived a certain lifestyle, uncompromising, achieved what he wanted record wise, accomplished what he said he would do, built the rocket, sent himself up vertically, something that astronauts don't do in real life. And he had that Amazon flick, and of course later that second thing was during a filming of a movie or a TV show. But yeah, there was no stopping him. Obviously, if that hadn't happened, he already had the craft built to go to space. But yeah, he was the realest person out there in the topic, and so it's kind of
yes, actually, definitely he was. Actually, Flat Earth was taken over by Mad Mike. I don't know if anybody else was there at the time, but like literally what we were doing, what you yourself, the work that you put in, getting to know Mike, we were in there because of you. So we knew Mike, and then, sorry, I had to burp. Other than that, we got in on top of that, man, and then boom, he saw our freaking he saw the he saw the fucking billboard, and then he contacted us. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, like what you put in, you get back type deal. I guess like karma. But as far as the
True.
universe, but anyways, the
True.
universe gave us
True. That
Mad Mike. The,
that's true because there's no way that we could have taken this idea. Well, like let's get this meme. Research flat Earth, which is object. It's not saying the Earth is flat. It's saying research it. And it's like, how do we make this meme go mega viral? So we do the billboard, and all of it's kind of spontaneous. And then he sees the billboard, and then the story just goes kind of exponential. But you couldn't have done that by design. You had to have the momentum of a lot of people. A lot of it's just kind of spontaneous, but it requires group focus and a will to have something happen. So we manifested this thing to the point where the media wasn't even ready to confront it, and I still don't think they are. The lady who wrote the book, she thinks that there's 8 feet of curve in 2 miles.
oh, if you're talking about that lady that you've been talking about, I get you on that. But like, if she did, she also talk in the what that thing you shared on Facebook about Mad Mike, like the whole article thing, like. When they talked about him, it seemed like it was just like, yeah, that's the reason why we told you not to, you dumb fucking dumbass,
Exactly.
or like,
They misrepresented it, and I
like,
think that's lazy
bro,
research.
it,
Lazy research.
bro, like these people have no fucking idea. This guy literally like made this shit by himself, like fucking did the trajectory and everything. Even though I did call in and ask him if he was going to put multiple cameras on the damn rocket, but I'm actually glad that he didn't, because kind of wouldn't want to, And other than that, all I'm
Yeah,
saying is
look,
like
yeah,
the article,
daredevilry is
the
like
articles,
what do you? It's a whole different
the,
category. And before you judge it, you have to say, well, what about extreme athletes? What about people using drugs to optimize their bodies? What about mountain climbers? And just today, a skydiver died because his parachute failed. People take risks and they die all the time, and that's not
right? But
really, yeah,
there's nobody there like saying like, yeah, you stupid skydiver, you fucking blah blah. There's nobody
exactly.
there saying you fucking dumbass because you're a skydiver. It's like, bro, y'all have no idea like what the. Do y'all even know what we were trying to prove? Like, if this man actually did this, like, shut the fuck up. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because
You have to know though that, and this taught me a lot though. What I learned this whole thing was that there's that expression, the lie will go halfway around the world before the truth has its pants on. It's true. It really is. I can see why the media lies so much, because lies that are easy to absorb, once they take root, or misrepresentations, they're really hard to deal with. But the good side or the silver lining is if you're wildly misrepresented, then there's always a story because you're always trying to correct yourself. They don't have the final word. But yeah, with him, it was a deliberate misrepresentation from day one. And they're very selective in how they take out their quotes. When you talk to the news media, you're talking to, you have to understand they have a forked tongue, and everything you say will be used against you. And no matter how hard you try, they will turn it against you. And they turned the world's greatest daredevil, or they try to turn him into some reckless person following an internet trend, which couldn't be further from the truth.
dude, bro, exactly. That's how they paint it. Like, I don't know what it is. Every time like everything enters the news media, and of course we all know this because they do this type shit. They are, and that's probably one of the reasons why we exist. But like, bro, I love all the information coming in. Like, I love it all. I was glad to be a part of. I just want to let you know I never donated to Mad Mike because I had some complications going on with trying to just run my life and make money and stuff. But like, I was always like, I watched and I would call in and shit
Yeah,
like
it
that. And
wasn't.
then there was that stream.
It was
There
that.
was that stream. There was that stream. Yeah, there was that stream when he was on, man, and like, holy shit, it's like goddamn, like shit, like, and you actually got to meet the dude, man, like, and that's so fucking cool.
And it wasn't really the
But
money so much that mattered. It was the energy from the community supporting him, the people around him, that made the thing even happen. And of course, I mean, we saw the uphill battle with trying to get the flat Earth conference people to even deal with him, and they really didn't want anything to do with him, and that's because he was challenging their model, which was strictly
Dude,
biblical,
right?
and yeah.
Hey, that exposed. Hey, without the support, like that's what I was going through too. Not only were you projecting it, but like everybody that thought the same thing. It's like, bro, why is not everybody getting behind Mad Mike right now? It's just like all the corners on the internet. It's like, why are we not grouping together? Like, what the fuck is wrong with it? Is this the reason why we're fucking flat earthers or conspiracy theorists or whatever the fuck that they call us? But like, isn't this one of the reasons why we get together and do this type shit, is to prove the rest of the world that, yeah, you're fucking wrong?
Yeah, that was the other thing. So we had the wake up
So,
call with the media and how they are liars, and that's what they do. They lie for liars in high places. But then within the internet fringe, you would think, okay, among the fringe, there's going to be unity. Everybody can line up because if this works, everything else falls apart and we see through everything. Let's just like get behind this one guy. And no, it was completely the opposite. Russian vids, even I have audio of these people. He complained. He bitched that Mike was taking the spotlight, whereas he wasn't a flat. He said, "Oh, he's not a real flat earther. He hasn't done this for years." And it's like, well, maybe he wasn't a quote believer in that sense. He was still open to the question, but they outgrouped him, and it was all out of personal spite and jealousy because their YouTube sub counts were being threatened.
wow, and and it's like when somebody that's been in the realms of being called a conspiracy theorist for a long time, find somebody that actually is not a part of it at all, has no idea what's going on, and it tells them about it, and they're so open minded, they're like, holy fuck, yeah, you could be right. And so that they go into it with, yeah, not only am I a daredevil, but I'm also going to prove whether this whole fucking thing is fucking flat or round. And like, bro, that takes balls. And it's just like, god damn, that was so fucking cool of him to even do. Like he had never even heard of flat earth before until, probably like we came into the situation, and then like boom.
Well,
But
it was a smart move too. As a daredevil, you have to be you also have to know how to do publicity stunts. So he's a stunt devil, but also it's publicity stunts because without the attention, the support, it just can't happen. And he certainly did manage to make that happen. If you look at the publicity he got for his research flat Earth rocket, I think it was rather unprecedented in terms of a billboard message and going viral like that. And right after that, a few months after that, that's when I really noticed how the media will try to drown out stories by pushing other stories that, like, for example, Rocket Man was trending. Well, then suddenly the media starts reporting about Rocket Man in North Korea. And then a few months later, there's an announcement, Elton John biopic coming out, Rocket Man. So it seems like if you are an effective challenger, they drown you out. It's meme warfare. And I think that's a lot of what we're dealing with here. It's info war, as Alex Hicks would say.
well, dude, it's always well, now it's evolved into meme wars, but like I guess like in the past, like coming up through all of this, like you remember when you was in the past still watching like right wing stuff and stuff, like we had no concept of this, you know what I'm saying? And then boom, blam, now we're just like right smack dab in the middle of it. And now we're just trying to make sense of it at the same time. So it's just like everybody grouping together with, bro, and I'm gonna say it, like, and like I said it before, like without auto hoaxing, where the fuck would we be right now? Like any of these new listeners that I know y'all been like projecting and trying to get out there on like dark matter radio and stuff, like that's cool as fuck, like if we actually open up and expand, and this whole conversation just goes like far far beyond like what we even thought of, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah. They
But
say they say you're the fringe when you're on the outside, at the very fringe of the acceptable realm of acceptable ideas. So like we're on the fringe, and now the fringe is, they say, is the flat Earth or the fringe, the borderline content. But the way I look at it, it's if you turn around 180 degrees from lie central and you think for yourself, the fringe becomes the cutting edge. And I think that's where we have always been, because this idea of reverse engineering the news at this level has just emerged over over time with our experience of looking at it. So I really think we're cutting edge. It's a new field of media criticism. And without it, I don't know where I would be. Goo-blooded, head injuries, agoraphobic, scared of the asteroids with a Oculus over my head. I mean, I don't know.
And juiced 4 times.
Yeah, yeah. My,
Hey, with whichever one that they're gonna come out with next, right? It's just like, just what's your order? Oh yeah, I want it with mayonnaise and French fry the toast. Okay, we know exactly what that means.
well, I'm convinced here that the best thing about this channel has always been the think tank, because that's what we started. When I first started this channel, it was a blank screen. It was just black because I didn't know OBS. I didn't know any of the software. I was new to it. I didn't even have a camera. I was just a former telemarketer, and so I had the black screen, and then I had the
Hell
chat,
yeah.
and so it was always just communicating with a chat room, and so it was kind of like this think tank was actually always the genesis of this whole thing and the ideas and what we came up with as a group of people conspiring. So we're not conspiracy theorists, but we are conspirators in a sense. We're conspiring in the literal sense of sharing of spirit or breath. The word conspire, I think it has a very positive connotation.
You're absolutely right, man. I freaking actually love it. The whole conspirating thing, like we're all here conspirating against something. We don't know what it is, but we're conspirating against something. But the fact that there's other people out there just shutting us down like all the fucking time. Like you get shut down like left and right. Like you can't even do anything on Facebook. Like it's so fucking, bro. When you explain the censorship, like as far as like this channel, it's, bro. Like you deserve an award. There's there's literally nobody with it. I'm
God, you know who
sorry.
got an
There's
award?
literally
Susan
who
Susan
who got an award?
Susan
Who
Wojcicki,
got an
the
award?
CEO of YouTube, got an award for free speech. She got an award, not me. I mean, she got an award for free speech. I'm like, wow, this is Lady Fahrenheit 451. I wouldn't trust her with my books. Like she just destroys everything that's real and organic. Just destroy. I'm like, just shut down YouTube. Why don't they? Because they're trying to deal
Wait a
with this
minute.
misinformation thing. But yeah, their CEO, they self-award themselves, and she gave herself an award for being a free speecher.
Oh my God, how do you even give yourself an award? Like, what the fuck? Like, how do you get any congratulations, like, except through just, the genuine good shit that you do? It's like, that's the only way that you're ever going to get that. I mean, I'd clap for some motherfucker that did something good, like whatever he had going on in his life. I'm pretty sure this clap helped him out for the thing that he was doing. But if she's just doing a bunch of fucking dumb shit, then why would you clap for her?
Well, Suzanne,
So,
I'm so honored to be able to present you tonight with a free expression award. I mean, that's insane. Also, I want to point this out here. Zareth, the alchemist, says, "Can I get some love for being the first person to call the think tank?" That's true. Back when the think tank started, Zareth the alchemist had called in, and on many of those early nights, back when we were hanging out, painting penguins to raise money to put research flat Earth on the side of the rocket.
right? It's like if you weren't even there for that, I'm just gonna say I'm sorry I wasn't able to donate money that whole time. I was a poor ass motherfucker, but bro, I was here like through that whole thing. Like, bro, you was sketching it up as far as them fucking penguins, and bro, you put it out there as far as painting them motherfuckers too. Like, god damn.
Again, it's not about the
But
money though. Every
whoa,
comment is money. The participation is what actually matters. That's the real currency in the info war. It's
I'm just saying that's
the
a talent.
well,
That's a talent for putting it out there like that. Like, bro, that's like, yo, man, goddamn, like you're only one person. How much can you do? But like bro, you did it. As far as penguins, bro, you painted some penguins.
okay. I recall that night, and yeah, we were just dead set on making our quota of getting the thing funded because we realized that the other flat Earth people weren't into it. Jaron wouldn't help. Bob didn't want anything to do with it. Dearth or Fed Flat Earth Dave, he said, "Do not support this rocket thing." So they were 100% against it. So suddenly I was like, "Wait, I don't know if we're going to raise enough money." So then I started this. Let's just paint a bunch of penguins, and anybody who super chats $20, we'll send them a penguin. And so I just started cranking out tons of penguin paintings, as you saw, and it did get us past the points where the thing could happen, which is kind of funny if you think about it. Yeah, it was penguin paintings that helped get the rocket thing going.
Bro, I was there for the fucking whole thing, man. But dude, I had a job while at the time you were doing that, and like sometimes I would pick it up and like I'd look at the YouTube feed and I'd just click it, and then all of a sudden it was you painting. And I'm like, shit, man, I gotta get back to work. But you know what? Hit that like button, blam. But I mean, it happens, man. But fuck, it has been so crazy this whole fucking time as far as like the world and what we're doing right now. Like I'm even here right now talking to you. Like this is fucking crazy still.
Oh,
And
isn't
then
it?
what?
Because
I guess it'll all.
we started this pre-COVID, so we were already breaking down fake news, agitprop, infowar, already figuring out the world stage, and then they bring that about. So we have been conscious of the deceptions that are being played out that are fooling everybody. So we're watching the multitudes getting tricked while we're safely off to the side, not getting caught up in the tide of emotion and panic. So yeah, this has been a very interesting period of time, and it's getting more interesting as we're getting better, I think, at deconstructing their narratives as they go.
Yeah, dude. As far as deconstructing the narrative, that's exactly where the infinite plane society is at. All right, like anything that comes out, like I know you know who Tim Truth is, and like I'll watch this stuff kind of religiously. But the thing is like, yo, man, like there are some things that we know are fake, and there are some things that are real. But like, there are some people that think that all we say is that everything is fake, and it's just like, no, stop. You don't even get what's going on. You don't even know what we're trying to do. Like all we're trying to do, goddamn it, is like point out that there are crisis actors and people faking shit. Like, can y'all just like hold the fuck up? You
It's
know what I'm
tough.
saying?
It's a
Like,
paradigm shift. I mean, people will think, okay, these 10 items, these 10 news items out of these 100 are fake. So they think it's hit or miss, use your discernment. The media sometimes lies, but they don't realize the monolith, that this is a monolithic media, and that when we're pointing out these things as being fake, it's because it's structurally fake, that it's systemic fakery in the media. It's systemic fakery. It's like you can't even present something real on a world stage basis, like a big event, if it's predicated on a lot of things that we know to be fake. Like the threat of Islamic terrorists were used for a while. Now it's the white Al Qaeda. Like we know these are characters that the media makes up to terrorize the public with. Well, the news people report the stuff, and they may be completely honest, but if you're a reporter reading off a teleprompter about the latest school shooting or terror bombing, you're just a liar. You just don't know it. You're kind of a dupe in that sense. So the media is duped. We're not. And if you don't get that the media is duped, then you're going to be duped. And a lot of these people give the media the benefit of the doubt, which is an error.
you're absolutely right, Tim. Because I think everybody goes through that. Like once you start talking to like family members or anything like that, everything starts going downhill because everybody's got like their own thing going on, of course that. But like the moment that somebody's like, "Hey, this is gonna be going on, and all this fucking shit's gonna happen, and you better listen to me," and fucking blah blah. And the dude turns out to actually be right, but like, it's like, yeah, that one time the dude's actually right. So like the dude's like talking about, yeah, they're incrementally like fucking taking over everything under the guise of the red and blue paradigm, and it's like
Yeah,
shit. It's like people still vote.
yeah, we
People
are.
still vote.
Yeah, people vote, they get vaxxed, and they don't look up. They don't look up information. That's one of the big tricks they've played in the last year or 2 years, really. But the last year, they've been saying, don't look up information for yourself. Don't do your own research. So don't do your own research was like put out by the New York Times. They say you'll lead yourself into misinformation. Just trust the experts. So now they're saying, don't be a scientist, don't have a methodology, just listen to the appointed scientists. Don't look up facts. And then we have this movie come out and it's called Don't Look Up. And it's like, this is clearly some kind of suggestion there. Yeah, don't look up. Listen to the scientists. Because in the movie, the people didn't listen to the scientists. They were listening to the. I mean, the whole thing is basically saying it's like a cautionary
They
tale.
love that shit though. They love that shit of oh, you didn't listen to the scientists that we appointed? Yeah, look at all the destruction that happened because you didn't, blah blah blah. Because you didn't listen to us, blah blah blah. But only if you had known that we faked the whole thing and started this whole shit anyways, and if you had known that we started this whole shit, maybe you wouldn't be with it right now.
Well,
You
so to get back to where we were when you first called in about seven. So tomorrow, 22222 is the
oh
return of
yeah.
Pluto. It's heavily encoded. This number has been heavily encoded into a lot of things that have happened in the last year. I can point to a lot of things. In fact, the mission of this Branson to space, Richard Branson went to space on July 11th of last year. It was called Unity 22. All kinds of 22 stuff have come out in the last year. So anyway, as far as tomorrow, so do you have any expectations? Do you agree with me that it's probably just a turning point? You think there may be an event?
Um, no, it definitely no, Tim. It definitely will be a fucking it will be a turning point because it's all twos. All right, I gotta say it. It's gonna be a 20, bro. They're gonna two us on top of freaking everything. All right, like pretty much. I'm thinking like think of like every major thing that could be faked, just faked at one time, but because like it has like zero casualties or freaking whatever. But freaking, they're gonna do something freaking crazy tomorrow, which is today. I'm standing outside in today. Yeah,
Now you're in
it's two
Seattle,
two two
right?
today.
Are you still in Seattle? Are you out? Are you
No,
anywhere? Okay,
no,
because
actually in South Carolina right now, looking at the moon. It's up there, covered by cover couple clouds. But other than that, yep, South Carolina just walking around. But as far as 222, I think something definitely fucked up is going to happen today. You know, they might take Ukraine or whatever, or just all the bad thoughts that we have. Like I had somebody tell me today, like, hey, if you think bad thoughts, then bad things are gonna happen. And it's just like, bro, don't blame all the fucking bad shit in the world on me that's gonna fucking happen.
yeah, Adam ruined the whole world. You made the space station fall on Seattle, and now World War IV is starting because you put it out
Hey,
there.
right? It sounds like you could put it in a book and give me a side chick character named Eve or something like and make something out of it. Maybe some might believe it. I don't know.
Right.
It might stick. I have no idea.
Well, hey, this has been a
That
great catching up. I think tomorrow definitely tune in. If you're not on the text message alert, you just get on the newsletter and I'll put out a link for that because starting tomorrow I'm doing text alerts. So even if they shut down all of the social media platforms, I could send out a text message and have everyone on the same page in the same think tank. We can reconstitute this organization, this group, this congregation. We just anywhere, anytime, as long as we have that. So yeah, definitely stay in touch via newsletter and call anytime. I appreciate it.
you know what, man? Hey, love the show. Everybody out there, Dark Matter Radio, get on the infinite plane. What is your fucking problem? And everybody else that's out there, love the conversation. Don't try to get too caught up in everything. We love you. Amen.
Awesome.
Anyways, love you, man. Bye.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. All right, long-term caller. Definitely a major. This is, I would say, he's representative of a majority of the think tankers. People who've been part of it for several years, in it for the right reasons, because they like the information, the philosophy, the philosophizing. They like the. It's not even just conjecture. It really is a deeper level of analysis. We're not sitting here confused. Oh, we don't have enough facts. We don't know what's going on. Is it real? Is it not real? We're not like that at all. We actually know the official accounts, the official stories, but then we're also looking at the discrepancies. And we do live in a world saturated with conspiracies. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to point out the actual conspiracies. And for people who don't believe or they think you're just making stuff up, just ask them to look up Jussie Smollett. Say, hey, remember when Jussie Smollett got lynched? And show them the articles from the first 24 hours before it was exposed as a hoax. Because what we're talking about with this things being fake isn't everything's automatically assumed to be fake. It's we don't assume the news media to be objectively reporting 100% of the time. And specifically, their extraordinary claims need to be challenged because they generally do not meet the burden of proof. And if they don't, logically, you're not obliged to accept it as true. And if you accept a lot of things as true without evidence, what are you? You're a believer in something. And that's where we're at in the world today, where people are getting their information secondhand, third-hand, teleprompted, filtered, scrubbed, compartmentalized. The information that you're getting a sanitized version of things. That's what the pandemic was about. It's a holy war. They want to sanitize the world. And it's not just internally your circulation, it's not just your vax status or the hand sanitizer and sanitation. They want to sanitize the world of ideas. And that's what they're at war with right now. Joe Shit Biden posted this. Spudgy Pang shows predictive programming of a submarine attack on Seattle. So a lot of the Seattle stuff, a lot of the predictive programming. So if you didn't know, and you're probably aware of, you should be aware of the predictive programming suggesting that 9/11 was going to go down in precisely that way. Well, there is more predictive programming about something going down in Seattle. And a lot of it seems to suggest a submarine attack. Finbar says in Mountain Standard Time it is now 2:22. Now the Kracken Hades connection, that's the main connection we made tonight, is that the Kraken was created by Hades. So that's a pretty big deal given that Hades equals Pluto, Pluto returns, and we've all been awaiting this Kraken. Did you all see this? I mean, this is just in poor taste. Just like in 2020, the year of the rat, we had the quarters with the bat soup on the back. Let me bring that up. I keep these whenever I find them. Well, actually, I cashed in my change today. Okay, because the bank holiday. The reason why I didn't send out text notifications, I couldn't pay for my credits because of the bank holiday. So I was cashing out change. I can out-Morguile the Morguiler. Do you guys know who the Morguile is? The Morguile, the original Morguiler, he's formerly a YouTuber. I don't know what happened to him. But basically, the idea was, he was associated with being an inveterate couch surfer who would, I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly he would clean out the couches of change. So we use the term Morguiling to describe cleaning the change out from between the couch cushions. So anyway, I was Morguiling today, and I brought up more than $15 in just change, nickels, pennies. Anyway, so this is the bat soup on the quarters. Let me get back on track here. How did I get lost here? I'm looking at a picture here. Oh yeah, so now they're selling bat-shaped pizzas. I was talking about the bat quarters, that's right. So they put bat on the quarters, and I'm thinking, okay, wait, you're putting bat soup on the back of the quarters for 2020? That's in poor taste. Suggestive of foreknowledge. But now we have this. We have bat-shaped pizzas coming out of Little Caesars. Lickety Split says, bat symbolism is the hanged man, is the Odin Jesus symbolism. Okay, that's interesting. You know who was hanging upside down was 50 Cent. Zareth the Alchemist says, I go through the couch at least once a year just out of curiosity. It's like I tip myself. Right. Right. But now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wait, a bat-shaped pizza. And we have COVID coming out, and the pepperonis look like COVIDs. And now AIDS is the thing, the AIDS variant. They should make an AIDS pizza. You just shape it like a monkey? Is that where it came from? Yeah, 50 Cent was doing the hanged man at the halftime show. I had a caller the other day, a slave rescue hound, suggesting that 50 Cent is not a real person, but is a role that is actually, it's Mike Tyson in a mask. And he does look masky. And it's not outside 100% unless you look at the pictures of the two of them hanging out together, but that's not always evidence. I mean, it is really trippy what you'll find. Like, for example, Justin Bieber and The Weeknd, like the caller just mentioned. You would think, oh no, that debunks itself. These guys have obviously spent time together. I mean, sure, they say they share girlfriends and wardrobe, but if you look, when you search for Justin Bieber and The Weeknd, you do find a picture of them, the very first thing that shows up. So the very first photo is The Weeknd hanging out with Justin Bieber. So you would say, oh, this debunks it, right? No. It turns out it's a fake photo, but they don't tell you that. The photo is popular. It's one of the top search results for that. But if you dig into this photo, you find that it was photoshopped. That some guy, some fan put it together, just some sort of fanfic, just kind of like, oh, this would be cool. And then you're like, well, now it's going to be harder to see the truth here. But that's how they roll. What also gives it away, if you compare Bella Hadid, that would be the girlfriend or former girlfriend of The Weeknd, to Hailey Bieber, the wife of Justin Bieber, yeah, it's the same chick, just wears hair dye and skin toner and contacts. But yes, overlapping everything. There's a lot of interesting coding here too. Justin Bieber, JB, the black and the white pillars, The Weeknd. You could say that means or symbolizes Saturday, Sunday, Saturn, Sun. Again, the black and white poles. The closest luminary, the sun, the furthest, the Saturn, bringer of darkness, the white and the black. JB, Boaz and Jacob, the B and the J on the pillars. It's the duality. And then you have the name Abel, like Cain and Abel. And Abel last year at the Super Bowl came out with the head wound, of all things. And if you think about it, a head wound, Abel, Cain and Abel, there's something of a story here, which made me think that maybe they're going to kill off The Weeknd. So Cain will slay Abel. Maybe there's some kind of a story there. And there's actually quite a lot in The Weeknd's videos that reference Stanley Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut. Oh, look at this poster. This poster has a woman with a toddler, and she's breastfeeding a baby, and it says, "Future or climate killer." Translation here, future or climate killer. So your baby is a climate killer. Worse than a COVID. Although that's a contradiction, if you really think about it. So they're constantly about, oh, we got to get rid of the COVID. We got to make everybody safe. Oh, but the baby is a climate killer. Okay, so then why don't we just let the COVID be the climate killer killer? Just let it go. Why would you vaccinate against the climate killer's killer? It's good for the environment. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, what's up, caller? Any predictions or expectations for the Taco Tuesday of all Taco Tuesdays tomorrow?
Hey, this is Art of Thinking Out Loud, Cincinnati.
Oh, what's up? Art of Thinking Out Loud, Cincinnati. Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, my bad. I'm trying to get situated here, and I just wanted to let everybody know my smoke alarm is still making noises.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually was I was buying batteries for a mouse, and I was like, man, I should get a 9-volt and send it to Cincinnati.
But yeah, I was just like listening to you talk about like Justin and The Weeknd again, and just things like that. And what I was gonna say was this: I was listening to like a couple recent interviews, and something I noticed is this: like the interviews were with different Hollywood like actors, actresses, and what they were kind of getting at was the basic point of it is that when they ask like actors, what have you been up to? like when you see certain actors that you haven't seen in a while. I've come to this conclusion. These actors are getting work by playing multiple characters. And I think I've really nailed this down because tonight I was watching something and there was a character, a guy on there that was married to a girl. The show, these were like supposed to be regular people, but they were going in for like a surgical procedure or whatever. But the guy that was playing, who I'll say was playing this girl's husband, because it was supposed to be a real couple, he sounded exactly like Tyler Perry, and he had the build of Tyler Perry, the same facial shape. And I remember when I was talking to you, like, I think it was like a while back, when I told you that there was a picture of Tyler Perry, and he's standing with, it's one of those judges, with the judge who used to be on divorce court. Now, she's a woman she's a real small woman. And now we've seen Tyler Perry in different situations. We know what this man looks like. But the person that's standing next to this woman, his body shape is different, and the head is like, it's slightly bigger. It's noticeably bigger. And I've seen that in a lot of recent celebrities, like, you know, just watching television, just not even anything like in particular. You'll notice that it's like, okay, with the photos of like Tyler Perry, if you go through multiple photos of him in different situations with different people, not just photos of him by himself, but like photos of him standing with other celebrities, you'll notice his head size changes and the body shape changes. And this is why I think that a lot of these actors are playing multiple characters, sometimes of just regular people on television. It's almost like practice on society.
Well, we're talking about spycraft, and so when you take the big movie screen out of the picture and their fame, you're dealing with people, influence agents, and so just because they're not on the movie screen, we shouldn't rule out the idea that it's not just another character, and that the person you know as Tom Cruise is actually some guy playing Tom Cruise who's a famous actor. But it's that deep. And the fact that he's tied in with these other psyops and some of these other actors just suggests that, yeah, you're looking at more than just an entertainer with the functions they play. And it wouldn't surprise me. The technology's there. The actor you mentioned, Tyler Perry, he's deep in the deep fake industry, portraying multiple roles.
Oh yeah, Tyler Perry. I was watching recently where they were showing a tour of his establishment, which happens to be 330 acres. You know, maybe even more now, because he mentioned in it that he was trying to buy a couple more acres or whatever, which makes me think 333 acres. But on this facility, he has a replica of the White House that he says is an 85%, you know, complete. It's almost exactly like the White House. And what it brought me to was when we see those interviews on the news where you hear planes flying over, where you hear construction. During the time when they were showing him filming this tour, they were doing construction in the other rooms, because with each of these buildings that he had like on the property that he uses for different television shows, each side of the building is a different like house for another television show. So he kept making references to, we can walk around this house and be in a whole nother world, and just put other characters. And when I was looking at that White House scenario, like I said, when we were hearing those planes flying over, when the woman was talking, and when we were hearing the construction, I think they were at Tyler Perry's studio. because he has the most complete replica of the White House, he said, in America.
Yeah, and you're referring to that clip where a plane flew over uh, pretty
A
close to where
plane
the,
flew over.
yeah, a plane and Jen Psaki. Yeah, so you're right. And that would make more sense to me than anything. I mean, they can
And
with
then,
yeah,
and I'm going to tell you something else. On his facility, each one of he has all these trailers, and he put the name of different top black actors on there. Like you have Wesley Snipes, Halle Berry, Denzel Washington, and they're all each private sound rooms. Like they're that person's private place that they can record and do movies or whatever. And what I was thinking was this: we see like Denzel's Washington's son starting to kind of become popular now. At the same time, Denzel's name is becoming popular once again. There are a lot of men. His son has kind of a common look, I would say. So I'll see characters on different things like commercials everywhere, and I believe his son is playing multiple characters. I believe his son is playing athletes because his son played an athlete on a show on television, and there's also several athletes that kind of like favor him. They look kind of masky. I think that we're looking at like major stagecraft when we were talking about how sports is now sports entertainment, where it can be
yes.
manipulated legally.
Yes, which they have put that in that category. And when you say masky, for people who aren't familiar, we use the word masky to describe people who look like they might actually be wearing hyper realistic synthetic faces that are just so thin that you wouldn't know it's a mask, or they're cosmetically adjusted so they look like somebody else. And we use the word masky because we're talking about stagecraft, not digital filters. And the public hears deep fake, they think digital filter. And I think, nope, we're talking about a technology that's been used for decades. And yeah, masking.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm gonna tell you, I think that with, like when I was telling you about the Reface app and with the deepfake technology, I think, like I said, a lot of these apps are preparing us and just kind of soft walking us into what's to come. I think we're gonna start. Well, I won't say gonna start seeing with the Super Bowl commercials. Like I said, with LeBron, his commercial, I think it was kind of a soft introduction of our meta reality, where they can basically create a scenario. I don't even think the virtual this. I think meta, the way it's being sold to us, it's being sold to us in a package. Because as long as they can keep you in a package mode, like I say, you put on these glasses and you go into the virtual world. I think that's the way they keep you boxed in. I believe this meta shit is the world you're living in now through mainstream media. I think they're creating scenarios. Some of the stuff that we're going to see on the news in the coming days with this whole 2222, everything, is, I think, and with the Russia situation, I think what you're going to see is some of the things that we're going to see on the news, like some of the attacks or whatever, I don't think will even have actually happened. I think it'll just be visual manipulation.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah, if everybody's
I
getting their
mean, think
info from the
about it.
screen, like that's how 9/11 was. The only images
It's
you
that,
have of the planes hitting the building was through the screen.
and that's the whole thing. Like I said, we have no way to basically test it. We have no way to basically, you can only go by what you're told, and they know that most of the public is pretty much, like I said, they're numb. Everybody is pretty much consensus-based followers. Like if it says it in the mainstream media, the religion of mainstream media, everybody follows it to at least some degree. And something else I found out recently too was, do you know that most television reporters are actors, not just because we say they're actors. If you look on most of their resumes, there's acting. And when I looked up what it takes to be like a media personality and everything, part of that whole training is you have to basically you're better fitted for it if you have some type of acting, some type of training. Like if you've done classical theater, if you've done something like that, you'll be probably picked more ahead of like somebody else with the same qualifications too. But if you have acting credentials,
Right. I think you're right about that 100% because
I'm
uh,
telling you,
I
if you look up your local newscasters, like just the people in the town that you're in, and then look up ones in other cities, a lot of them has acting. I'll tell you this. I'll put it to you like this: at least 60 plus or better have acting on their credentials.
I agree with that. And I think there's a lot of crossover between the skill set that it requires to be a good actor and that which is required to be a good spy, an embedded agent. I think
Hmm.
spycraft and stagecraft are essentially one and the same, but spycraft is done on the world stage as opposed to the theater stage. And I've looked at a few different reporters who are, looking at, like, for one I was looking at in particular, just looking at her resume, I'm like, wow, you were at the Thousand Oaks PSYOP, you're at the Vegas PSYOP, you're at this PSYOP, so you're probably lying here. So you can just see
And
that
why do you
it's the
win
same
Emmys?
ones.
And why do they win Emmys?
Right, exactly. Why do they win Emmys? That's a great question
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, why do they win Emmys? It's like, okay, you win an Emmy. Like I said, we ask logical questions, and when you ask those logical questions, they look at you and they give you an answer like, oh, because of reporting. Why are you giving Emmys for reporting? That
Yep.
makes no sense.
I'm
Then
glad you
you
brought
should
this
give
up.
an Emmy for
Actors,
playing football.
yeah, because we're talking about the trust that people have placed in media has turned them into faithful sheep of this new high-tech religion. And we are the ones who are being objective enough to even ask these questions. And when you find even some of these more high-profile alt media types like Candace Owen, always getting headlines, you think she's a champion of the people, and it's like, well, no, she was an actress who failed and got hired to do
Yeah.
this gig because she can read lines.
And the thing is, I'm gonna tell you, like people like Candace Owens. I think what Candace Owens is when I ask people all the time, have you ever read the book COINTELPRO? If you've read the book COINTELPRO, then you, especially for the black community, quote unquote, when we see these people step onto the world stage and they seem to be either agitators or they're just too pro-black, always pushing this, pushing that, and then they kind of jump onto other agendas, political agendas. Those people are agents. Those people are. I mean, it's obvious, and it's like I don't think that. I don't think that the. I don't think that that we quite understand that it's like there is no discernment between actors, entertainers, and politicians. Like I said, lawyers, everybody. It's all one big cabal.
It is. It's a cliche that politics is show business for ugly people, but look at the crisis actors; they can't act. So I think we're looking at the widespread use of actors, but the very glossy, glitzy, glamorous ones of Hollywood, I think also serve as a red herring. So we don't see the actors all around us in their own capacities.
Right. I know something else I was going to ask you. Have you noticed that a lot of the radical women that they will show, like in politics, a lot of the women that you see, like for from different countries and for different situations or whatever, a lot of these women appear to be transgender.
Um,
Some of these
Let me think about
some of
that.
these women, And that's not a shot at anybody or anything. It's just that when you look at certain people that are you could tell these people are characters because they look masky and they look like men you've seen before, maybe playing political figures or maybe actors. I can't think of the one woman's name, but it's like she used to be on TV all the time
Okay,
when this whole
I think I know one. I think I know one. And yeah,
and the one lady, the
it, it,
big
it's
who's the one big lady named the LeBlanc or something? It just I'm trying to think. She was a health. There was one woman that she was like a health commissioner or something, and she looked like she was about 600 pounds.
oh, that was Maggie the Block, and that's easy to remember because the name. You're like, oh, Maggie the Block. Like that's got to be some kind of a joke. And
I
then
think,
yeah, I think that's one. And
and I can't think of the other woman's name or whatever, but I also think about, okay, the woman that for me, I think about this, the woman that accused Bill Cosby.
okay, that was an interesting one, and I think it was Mag Bitter Truth who drew my attention to this. He was going through all of Bill Cosby's supposed victims, and it didn't fit the story that he was drugging women because a lot of them just looked, they didn't look like they were cis, whatever, women. I don't know
Right.
why they would do this unless the whole thing was a fake story. And then it leads me to think, well, or ask the question, what would be the purpose of faking such a story? And again, we're looking at psyop actors who are portraying evil characters and sometimes good characters. And I thought the story there might have been you're taking America's dad, like a figure like Cosby, and then turning him into this monster. And I think that's part of the Psywar as well, is the duality. And here's one here.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell and Dr. Levin. I don't know if Dr. Rachel Levin and Mitch McConnell are the same. Now, I do think I'm 100% that Blasey Ford is Brett Kavanaugh. Now, that one's pretty obvious.
I mean, but you know what? But it's like people think that this is so far-fetched, but we have to look back onto classical theater, Shakespeare, Broadway. Look at what we look at as being the finer arts and the most esteemed of the arts. It's like when the more the arts, Shakespeare especially. Come on, man. It's like we act like when you go back and you look at the pictures of like Parliament and you look at at the Romans and everything, they were always acting out. And I did further research. The Romans used to do like acting out scenarios, like war game scenarios, where you would play out in different situations. If this happened, kind of like training scenarios.
Okay.
And I looked at that as like old school propagandist crisis acting training.
Well, who was the name of
It's
the
been
first?
going on forever.
Well, the first man to get the COVID vax. Do you remember his name? William Shakespeare.
It was
It was William Shakespeare in Warwickshire, the same place where William Shakespeare was. I mean, yeah, the World Stage Read, the Globe Theater, yeah, it's definitely a thing. So when we're talking about these
and then when I
characters playing different roles, we're not talking about the identity group agenda. We're not talking about PC politics. We're talking about stagecraft at a very high level that the public has been blinded to, and you're taught not to recognize the nuance. And I think a lot of conspiracy theorists out there point to stuff like clones and reptiles and whatever, but I think they're being given red herrings to distract them from this tech,
right.
from the true deep fake.
And that's why I think that like right now at the point that we are in history, we're at a point where, like I said, with the internet, we have too much access. It's just like when Bill Clinton when they were first it was gonna be a lot of decentralization, and like the internet was gonna be more a social aspect and everything. He didn't want that to happen. He was one of those people pushing for that not to happen. I think because now we have everything. We have access to one another. We can constantly communicate and share this information and these ideas, this art, to where it's out of control, and that's why with these large scale situations that become that some people call false flags or whatever, but we know these are just world stage events that are set to change public perception. It's like you're looking at, like you'll take this whole, with the pandemic that happened and everything, with that whole scenario and going into the summer of like unrest and the George Floyd thing, while all that was going on, censorship was happening slowly in different aspects of, like, with cases coming up, and then they'll have entertainers happen with different little things. They took so much away from people while they were concentrated on these other events that, you know, were like basically being decoded right in front of them. And I think that that's part of it too. It's the fact that when these things happen, people like me, you in the chat, we start talking, we start making videos and decoding them to where, as they're going on, like you said, the stories about the cloning and the reptilians and everything like that, they throw out those stories so that you make people like us sound cartoonish.
Oh yeah, it's a tactic, and they're good at it. I mean, that whole book, Off the Edge, that I was going through earlier, it's 250 some pages, and I thought this was going to be a deep dive into the flat Earth subculture, and actually is quite shallow because I know the people that she interviewed more than she does. I've studied them deeper, and she missed all of it, and all she left the reader with was, oh, the flat earthers are represented by the rapping neo-Nazi Eric Dubé. So now she just basically said flat earthers are Nazis. So it's a smear, and that's the best they can do. But it was so shallow, the coverage that she gave. But I'm looking at it as, well, all they can do is misrepresent and try to obfuscate so people don't look. And then, of course, then they don't take you seriously because, like, oh, these guys talking about NASA being a hoax are probably Nazis. That's the connection that they've made.
Yeah, you know what? And that happens right at the time when we were just talking about Candace Owens. That happens right at the time. And this is why I think that, like I said, as they put out situations, we can decode them. And as I was saying when I called, like, a little while back, we can time travel. We can go back and look at that NASA footage, and we can take 60s and 70s and 80s, 90s logic and look at it now through a 2000 plus lens, and it doesn't add up. And it's like, with this happening, and like I said, we're not that small group of people just sitting in the corner. No, we're the general consensus that's asking questions. So now what you do is you take a figure like Candace Owens, and you do the same thing that you do with like Kyrie Irving. Except I think Kyrie Irving was a little bit more sincere with him, like questioning the flat earth thing and all of that.
He
but
was
I
far
think
more.
somebody like,
Yeah, Kyrie was far more,
right,
I think, sincere. But you can see what they did.
Right, but I think with Candace Owens, it's a thing where you now have commercials kind of making fun of the whole moon landing thing, and you have television shows and cartoons and memes and all of that. I think it got so far out of control that a part of getting it back guardrail is to now have one of these pseudo political figures, Candace Owens, throw something into it.
Oh, that's right. Candace Owens came out with the moon landing denial, and she's got this massive channel. So that's their way of damage control. It's like, oh, look, they took control of this leak let's get one of our big names, and now we can firmly associate moon landing denialism with right
And
wing
wherever
extremism.
the right, where however the public feels about her is how they will then associate questioning landing. It's like, like you was just saying a second ago. You take anything that's associated with like flat Earth, and you start attaching dumb shit to it. Like you start attaching Nazis to it, and you start attaching like, you know, terrorism and other shit to it. It's like things that have nothing to do one nor the other. Yet the public hears it all put in together, and they just and they kind of just associate it all as like one frame of mind. They think that if you question if the Earth is flat, that you probably agree with Nazis,
Well,
or they, or,
in many ways, they do. In fact, the media and stuff. I think you're right about this. It's all about fear. They serve as
hmm
like we're gonna bark and warn you when something bad's coming, like they're your guard dogs, which they're just not. And this Nazi smear is just very weak. I mean, if you really get down to it, I would even say that the Nazis were probably some of the original climate alarmists and radical environmentalists. So, if we wanted to stoop down to that level where calling everybody else Hitler is a way to win, you could argue that Greta Thunberg is basically Hitler, or literally Hitler.
hmm And you know what? I have a book I got years ago that's called "The Swiss, the Gold, and the Dead," and it talks about how how the Nazi machine was financed by the different financiers in the world. And when I go back and I read that book now, I got this book like back in the '90s when I think it was like in the late '90s or so, just picking up books. But when you go back and you read these books now and knowing about how stagecraft operates on a larger scale, then you see that when these different hedge fund organizations and these different groups come along, that they're not just coming along just because they're wealthy groups and they just want to put money into this. No, they fund events. They fund world stage events. They stage wars. They stage situations that shift the economy and shift perspective. And I think that was like a key factor that we had missing over time, is that we didn't really know that this was all like staged events. We thought that these were like real events.
Yes, and what you're
So,
talking about here, and this is also cutting edge, because we're always looking at the present and the future, but retro auto hoaxing. Looking back, because
hmm
if they fake the news since we started paying attention in 2012 to crisis actors, well, then it's pretty safe to say that Sandy Hook wasn't where they started this. So you start going back, and it's like, wait a minute, how much fake news have I taken for granted as real? And
right,
most people take all of the news for granted. That's just their default position. And so going back, and this is why they try to make it look like if you question history, you're a Nazi. It's like, no, we're questioning
right.
the elite's interpretation of events, a highly curated interpretation. We're questioning that. And that's, yeah, retro auto hoaxing.
And I think what's crazy is the fact that, like, just doing this retro auto hoaxing, when you go back and you start looking over wars and you start looking over these big shooting events, like I'm talking about, not even the ones from like in the recent times, I would say like in the like the '90s and the '80s, but just going back to some of the ones, the historical ones, you have to start questioning even the ones that they don't have video footage of, just stuff that you've heard historically. When you start reading into the different accounts and you start hearing other characters come into it, and this person does this, some of those even sound like they were staged, and the
Yes.
public was just not supposed to find out about certain things. And I think that like that's why now you'll have movies and you'll have like interpretations come up on the anniversaries where people will start to add like other little tidbits to it now because, like I said, they know that we know more now because we have more access. So they know. It's just like they can't feed you that same story because you're no longer 3 years old. You're 9 years old now. So they have to upgrade how they bullshit you.
Yeah, absolutely. PSYOP reinforcement, and the movies make it even realer. And John LeBon has a great article at johnlebon.com about Pearl Harbor and how much of what we're taught in the curriculum, the pictures that were shown, what the public is shown for Pearl Harbor as actual footage, most of it, if not all of it, is recreated. And so we have this
Hmm.
perception, oh, I have memories of this footage, very drastic stuff. And then you see movies about it, and the movies, it's like supposed to be a faithful reproduction. So now you have an idea of what happened. And it's like you watched a movie about a movie. And this is the level they're
Right.
going to. Like now they're putting the film studio in the space station. So we're going deeper
Hold
and
up.
deeper.
And you know what's a modern example of watching a movie within a movie? Do you remember they did a movie called like the Battle for L.A. or something. It was about a UFO that was like flying over Los Angeles and out by the ocean, and the government supposedly was like shooting at this thing. This is actually it's in a lot of like these like UFO books and these conspiracy books and everything and government files saying that they were shooting at this UFO and all of that. Now, and they actually made a movie about it featuring Rihanna and Neo and a couple other Hollywood characters. Now, I'm thinking this. If this was a real event, and the reason I say real event, it would be something historically noted. It would be something historically noted that they made a movie about this real event that happened and it was a UFO did this and they actually shot at one and all of that. They claim it was based on like actual events and they made a science fiction movie about it, but you never hear anybody speak about that. And another thing, I'm gonna tell you something. Not switching subjects, it's all on the same subject. Tupac, his mother, Afeni Shakur, went against the United States government, you hear me, the feds, for 157 charges, and she beat the government by herself in an 8-month trial. If you believe that, no lawyer talks about that. No law school talks about that. It's not noted as one of the greatest federal defeats ever. It was all staged.
Wow.
Because, I mean, think about that. And that's actually noted as something they say she beat the feds for 157 charges. But nowhere do you see, now that's what the news told us. But you see that nowhere legally.
Right, right. Okay,
Nowhere,
that's interesting. Okay, good point there.
nowhere is there on a. If you, I was watching videos on the channel Industry Hoax, and
Good
they do a
channel.
lot of
Good
deep dives.
channel. Yeah, Industry Hoax gets
Yeah,
it about weaponized
they do a
anthropology and
lot
all
of
of it.
deep dives into different stuff, and it's like when they were talking about that and was showing searches where you can't find any legal records of this. It was only what the media showed you, and they actually went to trial for 8 months and watched movies and just kind of walked around and talked to each other. There was no trial. And it makes me think about how we are right now with the Nipsey Hussle situation. We had a murder. We had a suspect. We had a situation, and we have nothing. It's
Oh,
all
oh,
acting.
yeah, that event. I mean, there was so much we can go into there, but yeah, I recall
Right.
noticing why is it that TMZ has interviewed far more witnesses than the LAPD? that the police
Right.
were less informed than TMZ. That stood out to me. And
CNN.
really quick, the last caller brought this up, or some chatter brought this up. So now it's 222. Kanye's album Donde 2 for
Mm-hmm.
$200, too much money,
Right.
comes out today,
I'm glad you brought
and it
that
was
up.
produced
I'm
by
glad you.
Future, who has an album called
Yeah.
Pluto. So what do you think of this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Young Pluto. That's what I put that in the chat. Like Future has been calling himself Pluto for the last few years, and he also calls himself Hendrix. He calls himself Future Hendrix sometime, and I'm looking at that as with them having Future do Kanye's new project, and what it is he's doing stems where it's like for the $200 you basically buy the music file and you can adjust it to just hear the vocals or you can hear the bass line. You can basically EQ the music to how you want it, like if he sent you his files in the studio. So you will actually own the music. And what it does is it gives the artist a chance to make more money, but on a deeper level. I was thinking this. You have Kanye, who we know has been doing all these different rituals with the whole Burning Man ceremony that he did, because that's actually what I think it was kind of a continuation of. And
It was the same day,
and
yeah. But Kanye
it
burned
was the
himself
same
the
day.
anniversary of the usual Burning Man festivals that they did 33 years previously.
And now I'm gonna tell you something else with Future. Future is one of those. Future is one of those top hip hop artists, those top mainstream artists that he's been like relevant for a decade, and it's like there's kind of a mystery to him in a sense, because even though he's a quote unquote street rapper, he doesn't do a lot of interviews, and it's like his music will go into some deep themes about like demons and about rituals and about stuff like that. And I think it goes over like a lot of people's head. He has a lot of videos themed around a lot of things, and it puts me in the mind that it's like he's one of these industry plants.
Well, Pluto,
that
Underworld, there's got to be, and then the mystery and all that.
yeah.
And hey, Jake
He
the a-hole in the comment says, this dude's smoke alarm chirps every minute for the last few weeks and he doesn't notice. It's kind of funny because I was driving the other day and I didn't put on my seatbelt, and sometimes I just don't want to. And the little dinger's
Right.
going on, ding, ding, ding. And so
I'm so used to it.
the person next to me is
Yeah, I'm just used to it.
I saw a meme today and it said, you know, the guys who drive around and don't care when their seatbelt alarm is going off? Yeah, they're serial killers. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, no,
Hey,
I'm
I
just
guess
focused.
yeah, it's like, I mean, you get used to it after a while.
Exactly. No, we just have our focus. But anyway, no, it's all good. But no, hey, this info on Future, very interesting because again, it's Pluto who invented or created the Kracken. And so for Pluto return happening today, and then all this Kraken stuff that we've had for the last couple of years, and the schism, Joe Biden giving out crack pipes, something is up.
And you know what else I just thought about? Know what else I just thought about? A Future connection. Okay, Future used to go with Sierra, who's married to the NFL guy. I forget. He was like in the Super Bowl and everything like a couple years back. And they're like this big Christian couple. So they're always on these religious networks and everything, and they're always they're pictured with the Obamas and with other people like with the T.D. Jakes and folks like that. And then you have Future, the duality. He's rapping about demons. Future has all these children with other women. He's like, and he calls himself Pluto, and he talks about he's from the underworld. I represent this and I'm this and that. I think it's a duality being played, like I said, right in front of us in society. He's working with Kanye. We know what Kanye is doing. I think that we're just watching actors and pieces being put together for different rituals that are just large scale stagecraft assemblies just being laid out right in front of us.
Yeah,
And
and
I
for
think they're getting,
that's
and I
probably
think they tell us because, I was going to say, I think that the reason we see it is because it's just like with when we were talking about vampires. A vampire can't do anything to you until you invite it in. And it's like with symbolism, you'll never know what's going on in society until you're looking at symbols, because as long as you're just watching the surface or you're just reading the words, you'll never understand what's going on with like what's being manipulated right in front of your face. I think when they show us future Kanye, they show us these different events. And then I'm going to tell you something. 9 times out of 10, this future Kanye thing, something is going to drop on a date symbolic to like something else happening, like with the whole Astro World situation. This future Kanye thing is going to drop and it's going to be aligned with some type of big world event.
Well, I do think that the coding here implies West world, Kanye West.
Right.
It
Mm-hmm.
implies some, and then the destruction of the house. This is all very significant, and Kanye is a key player on the world stage when it comes to communicating these
And
symbols.
Kanye has called his home West World.
Has he? Okay,
He said that
okay.
in a rhyme a couple times. He said that in a rhyme a couple times. That's the reason I'm saying that I think with the whole Kanye future thing and with the symbolism, like I said, when we were talking about how that's the same house pretty much in the Rust, scenario, and with other scenarios that you'll see, like in other shows. I think it's all. I believe Kanye and Future and others are just aligned for the big world stage. I think that like with the Kanye and Future are kind of like the Super Bowl halftime show for the world
Well, this is going to
on the
be
entertainment stage.
tomorrow then. So tomorrow's the day. Possibly the Kraken gets released. It's Hades. And, we have a flat solar system for the people who laugh at flat Earth. Your solar system's flat, with the exception of Pluto, which is inclined at an angle of 17 degrees. So it goes under. And so it's all symbolic. And for him associating himself with the underworld, and he's now tied in with Kanye and his record release, all super interesting. So I'll be
And
following
then
this
think about
tomorrow.
something.
Uh huh.
And then think about something real quick. Remember, they declassified Pluto as a planet a while back.
Yeah, that's right. Pluto invented in 1930 or so, or first noticed. But yeah, it's been a debate. Is it a planet? Is it not a planet? And now it's apparently a
Yeah, they
planet.
see. So yeah, it's a lot of correlations you can run with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to follow this tomorrow for sure. I'll be keeping an eye on this thing as it unfolds. There's no way it's a nothing burger, but I think maybe like what a couple
Right.
callers ago said, maybe it's the beginning of a new cycle, a new reset, or rather, the reset actually begins. But I don't know. Pluto, the dogs, Hades, and the Kraken, it's all too much. So, hey,
Oh, and I know some,
yeah,
just real quick, I know something else. 50 Cent he just started production on a movie about a comic book character that he's going to be doing. Somebody named Zero or something, but it's like this character is supposed to be, the way he's going to work it is that it's a black character that he's a black character, like a spy or something, and he's in disguise as a white man doing like some espionage, and then a situation happened. I think it's basically playing on the whole prosthetic masking and everything, just with, anytime I see people talking about changing faces, or people with, like, there's a movie on Netflix or something about a woman that she's a spy, and she was known to like disappear basically from like public sight, and it's about how these people are basically masters of like stagecraft, masters of I just think that a lot of the whole prosthetic masking and the technology, I think it's even beyond prosthetic masking sometime at this point. And I think that, tomorrow will probably be some big propaganda to start moving us in the direction of, seeing where they're going with it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the 1776 reoccurring tomorrow is also significant because I think what they framed it as is that the freedom lovers, the ones who believe in private property, individual responsibility, individual immune systems, and self-defense, yeah, they are for 1776, whereas the control freaks, the commies, they're for the 1619, which is the Marxist revolution, bringing us back to 1619. So I think between 1619 and 1776, that's the that's the split that they've created here. And so tomorrow may be a highlight in that split. Maybe tomorrow, with 1776 being brought back in that sense. And it's also at 27 degrees Capricorn. So I kind of have my eyes out for anything with goats.
Yeah, see, I think they're going to have to do something tomorrow, just because if they let tomorrow go by, it'll kind of be like a big opportunity going to waste, because in certain situations, when we think something is going to happen on a certain day, they can kind of move it to another day. Like it can be 3/11, November the 3rd, and then it happens, March 11th. But I think on a day like tomorrow, there are too many correlations. There's too much symmetry. There are too many like alignments with different, that go across the board. They're going to do something tomorrow, some type of propaganda. They have to, because they have to, to give people somewhat of a show. It's Broadway. It's Shakespeare. It's the
Yeah.
world stage.
Look, at the craziest end of this thing, there's a whole lot of predictive programming and symbolism and storylines that have been put out there that would suggest JFK Jr. is going to come back tomorrow, 22 years and 222 days after his supposed death. So it could be that weird. I don't know how far it's going to go, but yeah, anything's on the table. So we'll be watching.
Right.
And this, again, Art of Thinking Out Loud. If you want to go ahead and leave your Twitter in the chat again, definitely, I have a lot more people now on Twitter getting engaged there, and it's a great place to source intel. And
Okay.
I follow you there.
Without a
So
doubt.
cool. All right. Well, hey, good talking to you again, and we'll catch up here. Probably, hey, tomorrow I'll be live covering whatever goes on.
Without a doubt. All right, y'all take it easy.
Awesome. Thanks again for the call. All right, everyone. That's Art of Thinking Out Loud calling from Cincinnati. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover a few other things. God, there's so many. Oh, by the way, someone brought up celebrities and actors even playing different genders. This is supposedly General Flynn. Well, somebody suggested it was General Flynn. I see the resemblance. So they labeled this one LGBTQAnon. Hard to dispute, but highly doubtful. Although, not outside of the realm of possibility. So, anyway, General Flynn, of course, being one of the main leaders of the Q movement. Clockwork 113 says, good call. Yep. Going through, Finbar says the chirp. Oh yeah, the chirp. Somebody says here, I'm just picturing chirping penguins. Yeah, the fire alarm in the background is just a theme with that call. I mean, it just happens every time he calls in, and it's like it's not even an annoyance. It's just kind of funny. It happens here too, and those things are just annoying. Same thing with the car. Like I'll be driving, and I don't have my belt on, and the thing starts beeping, and to me, it's like a contest of wills. Like I'm not going to let this alarm tell me what to do. And so I will drive for miles with the annoying ringing in my ear just to be, just out of spite. violently, just to resist it. So I don't imagine I'm going to fare well with a robot invasion. Am I going to let little robots tell me what to do? I don't think so. Let's see here. Let's continue. Oh, Maximilian says the Honda beeps are the worst. Yeah, I'm the type. I mean, I'll push the button to stop the beeping for 30 seconds. I just don't want to let it win. Okay, this is another article from Donnie Darkened. The Rise, the Wound, the Return of Donald Trump, a case for the biblical Antichrist. So just another thread from the same Twitter account. Again, if you're not on Twitter, I highly recommend it. Follow me and all the people that I retweet. So, Donald Trump, 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days after his birth, he was inaugurated. 7 months after this, the Great American Eclipse would occur on August 21st. That would divide the USA in half in a 7-year period. So from 2017 to 2014, we are being divided by an eclipse that passes through 7 cities named Salem. Interesting material here. The main thing is this: the Kracken, the schism. It could be this. And Trump is definitely a part of this schism, this cracking, the split. So it could be that the cross of these eclipses is actually this split. Goes on to talk about the significance of the names of Salem, etc. And what's more, he also suggests here that Donald Trump may actually be one of these moon children, a moon child. A Moon Child is a book by Aleister Crowley about the timing of the conception of a child to incarnate the Antichrist, the thing that Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were doing. So the suggestion here is that maybe Donald Trump is that moon child. This article goes through the predictive programming, the significance of Trump and all the roles that he's played, and I'll go through this one in detail tomorrow. Today we went through his breakdown of the Pluto returns. But I think there's a pretty strong case here that, Trump may in fact be the Antichrist, if there is one. I mean, my bet's still on Greta Thunberg. She's certainly the crowned conquering child that Aleister Crowley said would come to bathe the world in blood. All right, I have a few other things to go through here. We're hitting the 3-hour mark. We'll continue tomorrow. There's just so much to talk about here. And tomorrow is the big Kracken day. And so who knows? Everything may change tomorrow. I don't think tomorrow is going to be a nothing burger. I'm with the last caller, Cincinnati, that there's no way with this once in a, not lifetime, once in a nation's lifetime event, 248 years, occurs tomorrow. Well, see, tonight we covered the book Off the Edge. We've been taking calls, mostly talking about tomorrow, 2222. Also, it's the 2nd anniversary of the Mad Mike Hughes' final rocket launch. In fact, when we were talking about Mad Mike, Lean Dion in the comments said, "A lady in front of me is wearing a Rocket Man t-shirt." I've had synchronicities like that. Unbelievable synchronicities. You think of someone, you talk about someone, and something in the environment just appears. And you could say it's selective observation, it's coincidence, but I have too many of those, specifically when it comes to people who have passed. So anyway, this is Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. This is Real Rocket Man. This track was performed at the Exit the Matrix event live by Chief Crow. This was a theme song for Mad Mike Hughes. We will return same time tomorrow. Also join us in the morning. If you haven't really been up to date with what we're doing, in the mornings we are live usually, but I'll definitely be in the chat with more likely Crater Earth USA first before I go live. So Crater Earth USA is now part of the Conspiratainment Radio Network, which is also where we are mirrored. So get on the newsletter. You won't miss anything. I'll keep you up to date with everything as it develops. Tomorrow should be interesting, or rather today. Now it is 222. Anyway, this is Chief Crow. Have a great night.
other side. Man mind, yeah, sonic boom. Put yourself through the plasma moon. Man mind, let it sky, new age of exploration. Man mind, infinite landed, chaotic creation. Rocket, 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 the real rocket man. Rocket, rocket, the real rocket man. Rocket, rocket, the real rocket man. Rocket, rocket, the only one with a plan. Rocket, rocket, the only one with a plan. Rocket, rocket, he's a real rocket man. Rocket, rocket, the only one with a plan. Man,